Chapter 557. The Headless Giant, the Blood Demon Inheritance. Zhuowen actually chose the Blood Demon Inheritance. The instant the blood-colored light pillar erupted, the light screen also showed that Zhuowen had chosen the Blood Demon Inheritance. It was the most mysterious, dangerous, and terrifying inheritance in the Inheritance Land. Uproar, clamor, and exclamations erupted from the crowd. No one had expected that Zhuowen would choose the Blood Demon Inheritance in the end. In the eyes of many people, Zhuowen was simply insane. This Zhuowen chose the Blood Demon Inheritance. Lu Nantian couldn't help but be dumbfounded. He stared at the blood-colored light pillar in a daze, his gaze extremely complicated. He remembered that 100 years ago, such a tragic blood-colored light pillar had also appeared. At that time, his most revered big brother, Lu Hantian, had chosen the Blood Demon Inheritance without hesitation. How could the scene at that time be similar to what he was seeing now? Zhuowen is too impulsive. The Blood Demon Inheritance is so dangerous, yet he actually dared to choose it. Isn't he courting death? The master of the meteorite and Qin Nai both frowned. The two of them had a good impression of Zhuowen. Seeing that Zhuowen was courting death by choosing the Blood Demon Inheritance, they couldn't help but feel pity. Even Xu Chang, who had the worst relationship with Zhuowen, was astonished by Zhuowen's choice. Soon after, ecstasy appeared on his face as he inwardly said, "Zhuowen, you're courting death. Looks like I don't need to do anything. A bastard like you will also die." The outside of the Yuan Qi Tower was in an uproar, but the inheritance grounds within the Yuan Qi Tower were incomparably silent. The 5 ancient inheritances that stood in the core area actually began to tremble the instant the Blood Demon Inheritance erupted with a bloody light. It was as if the Blood Demon Inheritance was something extremely terrifying to them. When Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes, he discovered that what entered his eyes was an endless sea of blood. A dense smell of blood entered his nostrils as if it was real. Around the sea of blood stood 8 blood mountains that were several thousand feet tall. Each blood mountain was enough for Zhuowen to look up. And Zhuowen was in the middle of the 8 blood mountains. This should be the trial space of the Blood Demon Inheritance Land, right? Even Zhuowen couldn't help but frown as he smelled the pungent smell of blood coming from the surroundings. The environment faintly gave him a strong sense of threat, as if he had encountered a natural enemy, which made him extremely uncomfortable. Brat, be careful. Since this Blood Demon Inheritance Land is known as the most terrifying inheritance in the Inheritance Land, it shouldn't be a baseless rumor. Although your strength is not bad, you still can't compare to the #1 Heaven's Pride of Muqin County, Lu Hantian, 100 years ago. So be careful. A black light swept out from between Zhuowen's eyebrows, revealing the figure of Xiao He. At this moment, Xiao He's expression was extremely solemn. Facing the Blood Demon Inheritance Land, even Xiao He had to be cautious. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded and said, "The owner of the bronze coffin once left a message. There are a total of 18 trials in the Blood Demon Inheritance Land. However, I only need to pass the first 8 trials. Then, I can rely on the Blood Demon token to directly enter the core area to receive the inheritance. Although that's the case, you still have to be careful." At this point, a trace of hesitation appeared on Xiao He's face. It felt that there were many loopholes in the message left by the owner of the bronze coffin. However, after thinking about it carefully, it felt that it was reasonable. Maybe I'm thinking too much. Xiao He shook its head and mocked itself in its heart. It then stood on Zhuowen's shoulder and began to silently guard its surroundings. Boom. After entering this trial space, Zhuowen no longer held back his trump cards. He directly took out the huge bronze coffin. Puppet Bai Lin slowly walked out of the coffin. Its posture was elegant and its expression was calm. "Greetings, Master." After coming out, Bai Lin respectfully bowed to Zhuowen. "Bai Lin, help me guard the surroundings. This is not a friendly place." After giving Bai Lin a few instructions, Zhuowen began to carefully observe the surrounding environment. In this land of Blood Sea, the only landmark buildings were the 8 surrounding blood mountains. Other than that, whether it was the sky or the ground, it was basically covered by the endless Blood Sea. What a strange place. I'm afraid this place should be the first stage of the blood demon inheritance. Holding the tyrannical dragon scale bone spear in his right hand and the shrunken bronze coffin in his left, Zhuowen's expression was extremely cautious. Although the bronze coffin was only an auxiliary heaven-rank spiritual treasure, its material was extremely sturdy and far surpassed that of an earth-rank spiritual treasure. It was extremely suitable to be used as a shield for defense. At the same time, Bai Lin surrounded Zhuowen with a guarded expression. It was like a conscientious bodyguard protecting Zhuowen. As long as there was any movement, Bai Lin would immediately block the danger for Zhuowen. Boom! 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 Suddenly, an earth-shattering vibration surged out from under Zhuowen's feet. Cracks like a spider web almost spread out under Zhuowen's feet. Then, Zhuowen was shocked to discover that the 8 blood mountains around him were moving in an extremely orderly manner. The blood-colored walls on the surface of the blood mountains had completely peeled off, revealing their true appearance. As the blood-colored walls peeled off, Zhuowen discovered that there were 8 giants standing on the blood mountains. The blood-colored giants had no heads and bodies. They held blood-colored giant axes in both hands. It was as if they were splitting the heavens and earth apart. They walked forward and slowly gathered around Zhuowen. Kid, be careful. These 8 headless giants have the strength of a mid-ultimate Emperor Stage 3 wheel. If 8 of them work together, even you will find it difficult to deal with them, Xiao He said with a serious expression. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded and said to Bai Lin beside him, Bai Lin, go deal with the 5 headless giants on the left. With your strength, you should be able to handle them. Master, don't worry. Bai Lin nodded and turned into a bolt of white lightning, sweeping towards the 5 headless giants on the left. Zhuowen still trusted Bai Lin's strength. This was a puppet that had the strength of a peak ultimate Emperor Stage cultivator. Its strength was even greater than his own. It should be able to deal with 5 peak ultimate Emperor Stage 3-wheel headless giants. As long as I get rid of the 3 headless giants in front of me, I'll be able to pass this stage. Seeing the 3 headless giants striding towards him from the right, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with battle intent. His right hand tightened around the handle of his spear. With a stomp of his foot, his entire body turned into a bolt of lightning. Roar! Seeing that a tiny ant like Zhuowen had actually taken the initiative to provoke them, the 3 headless giants roared furiously. Their powerful strength borrowed the power of the air, forming a dense ring of sound waves that blasted towards the tiny human who dared to provoke them. Zhuowen also noticed the power of the sound waves above his head. His eyes narrowed slightly as he swung the tyrannical dragon-scale bone spear in his right hand. He immediately used the defensive technique, Crouching Dragon. Instantly, hundreds of huge illusory dragons revolved around Zhuowen's body. Bang! 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 The 3 headless giants' sound wave attacks were rather powerful. When they blasted against the illusory dragons, they actually showed signs of collapsing. Fortunately, the crouching dragon was powerful enough. Coupled with Zhuowen's freakishly strong physical body, he was able to block the attack in the end. Whoosh! After blocking the impact of the sound waves, Zhuowen instantly arrived beside the nearest headless giant. He swung the bone spear in his hand. The sharp tip of the spear pierced through the air and pierced the giant's chest. Clang! The crisp sound of metal clashing could be heard. Zhuowen was shocked to discover that the headless giant's defense was so strong that even his tyrannical dragon-scale bone spear couldn't pierce through it. Roar! Zhuowen's actions had completely enraged the headless giant. The headless giant roared furiously as it swung its blood-red axe at Zhuowen, who was in front of its chest. At the same time, the other 2 headless giants had also arrived. 2 blood-red axes mercilessly swung at Zhuowen. The air was filled with a tragic whooshing sound. Feeling the immense power of the 3 axes, Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He raised his left hand that was holding the bronze coffin to block. Suddenly, a green light burst out and the bronze coffin expanded to several feet, protecting Zhuowen. Boom! 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 The 3 axes bombarded the bronze coffin, causing countless sparks to fly. However, to Zhuowen's delight, the axes couldn't leave a single mark on the surface of the bronze coffin. Thump! 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 The powerful recoil caused Zhuowen to retreat continuously. He looked at the three headless giants in front of him with a grave expression. Kid. The headless giant's body is even stronger than yours. It won't be easy to destroy its body. However, this Dragon Lord has already observed that the headless giant's weakness is on its headless neck. As long as you destroy the headless giant's neck, the headless giant will definitely die. A smile suddenly appeared on his shoulder as he suggested to Zhuowen. Nodding his head, Zhuowen also noticed that there was still a neck above the headless giant. His eyes narrowed slightly as he took a step forward and rushed towards the headless giant again. The tyrannical dragon-scale bone spear in his hand was ready to strike. Roar! Zhuowen rushed over again, which naturally made the three headless giants even more furious. They roared and swung the blood axes in their hands at Zhuowen. The powerful fluctuation caused the surrounding space to collapse. At that moment, Zhuowen's expression was extremely calm. When the three axes blocked his way forward, Zhuowen immediately used the ascending dragon style. The huge dragon head whizzed out and hit the three axes. Although it didn't break the axes, it caused the axes to deviate slightly. Good chance. Taking advantage of this moment, Zhuowen immediately spread out two pairs of lightning wings. His speed was almost at its limit as he rushed through the gaps between the three axes. In an instant, he arrived on the shoulder of the first headless giant. This time, you won't be able to dodge. With a grin, Zhuowen suddenly spun the bone spear in his right hand. Countless forces burst forth and pierced the neck of the headless giant. To Zhuowen's surprise, the bone spear easily pierced through the neck of the headless giant. It seemed that Xiao He was right. The neck of the headless giant was indeed its fatal weakness. Roar. Chapter 558. The ancient blood clan. The moment the bone spear pierced the headless giant's neck, Zhuowen poured all the energy within his body into the bone spear. Immediately, the powerful energy was like a meat grinder, directly turning the headless giant's insides to mush. Awoo! The headless giant wailed in agony as its body directly collapsed, turning into a rain of blood that rained down. It was mournful and bloody. The death of the first headless giant immediately caused the other two giants to wail in agony. They began to charge at Zhuowen without any regard for their lives. They had to kill this despicable human cultivator before them. Unfortunately, since Zhuowen had already grasped the weakness of the headless giants, the fate of these two giants was already destined to fall. Boom! Boom! With a flash of lightning, Zhuowen directly passed by the two giants. The bone spear in his hand accurately struck the necks of the two headless giants. Then, the two headless giants collapsed to the ground, their auras completely gone. After dealing with the three headless giants, Zhuowen began to notice that Bai Lin on his left had already finished his battle. He was standing nearby, waiting silently. Seeing that Zhuowen had also finished his battle, Bai Lin's figure flashed, and he arrived behind Zhuowen like the most loyal guard. When Zhuowen's gaze landed on the battlefield on his left, he could not help but gasp. Not a single one of the 5 headless giant corpses was intact. Countless chunks of flesh were scattered all over the ground, making it seem like a slaughterhouse. Moreover, from the looks of the battlefield, Bai Lin did not find the headless giant's weakness like Zhuowen at all. Instead, he tore them apart forcefully. Zhuowen knew very well how tough the bodies of the headless giants were. However, Bai Lin was actually able to tear apart the headless giants so easily. His battle prowess was probably even greater than Zhuowen had expected. The ultimate 5-wheel emperor Bai Lin is indeed powerful. Zhuowen nodded as he took a deep look at the bloody battlefield on his left. Swish! After the 8 headless giants were all killed, the surrounding sea of blood suddenly trembled. Soon after, a blood-red whirlpool appeared in the air above the empty space. It looked deep and eerie. This should be the entrance to the next stage. Let's go in. Xiao He, who was on his shoulder, said calmly. Zhuowen nodded when he heard this, and then he took a step forward and directly entered the blood-colored vortex. Time slowly passed. Zhuowen had already stayed in the Blood Demon Inheritance Land for 7 days. During these 7 days, he had basically been challenging the remaining stages. It had to be said that the trials of the Blood Demon's Land of Inheritance were extremely terrifying. The first 5 trials were still all right. With the white phosphorus and the bronze coffin, Zhuowen passed through them rather easily. However, the difficulty of the 6th and 7th stages exceeded Zhuowen's expectations. The traps and creatures that appeared in these 2 stages were extremely frightening. Even with his many trump cards, Zhuowen had nearly gotten himself seriously injured. This was a huge blood mountain. At the top of the blood mountain, a slender figure was sitting cross-legged. A strange bone spear was stuck in the ground beside him. This person was Zhuowen, who was in the blood demon's land of inheritance. At this moment, Zhuowen's appearance was rather miserable. His clothes were tattered, and his exposed skin was riddled with scars and dripping with blood. He looked extremely terrifying and hideous. Slowly opening his eyes, Zhuowen's eyes glowed. He looked up at the blood-red whirlpool in the air and said, "I never thought that the 7th stage of the blood demon's land of inheritance would be so difficult. I wonder what the 8th stage will be like. I'm afraid that the 8th stage will be even more terrifying. You should be careful. This is already the last stage. If you can break through this last stage, you can directly use the blood demon token to enter the core area of the blood demon's land of inheritance. At that time, your chances of obtaining the blood demon's inheritance will be very high," Xiaohe suddenly said. Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes blazed. Since the blood demon's land of inheritance was known as the most powerful inheritance in the Yuan Qi Tower, there should be a lot of good things inside. Zhuowen was looking forward to this inheritance more and more. "Let's go. I want to see how difficult the last stage will be." Slowly getting up, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. He held the spear in his right hand and the bronze coffin in his left hand. Bai Lin was also waiting around him, ready to attack. With a step, Zhuowen did not hesitate for long and directly entered the blood-red whirlpool. The feeling of traveling through time and space flashed in Zhuowen's mind. Then, he realized that the scenery in front of him had changed. This was an endless desert. Blood sand filled the sky everywhere. In the blood-red sky, there was a lonely blood moon hanging alone. Everything looked so strange and dilapidated. "There seems to be something in front. Go and take a look," Xiaohe on his shoulder suddenly said. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. With a step, he directly rushed forward. After about half an hour, a somewhat dilapidated blood-red stone hall appeared in front of Zhuowen's eyes. The cornerstone on the surface of the stone hall had been broken and shattered. It looked like it could collapse at any time. At the front of the stone hall stood a stone tablet that was dozens of feet wide. On the stone tablet, there were vague words. However, due to the erosion of time, these words were basically unrecognizable. "I'm afraid this stone hall is not a good place. Kid, be careful," Xiaohe cautioned. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. He tightened his grip on the weapon in his hand and slowly walked into the stone hall. What surprised Zhuowen was that the stone hall looked dilapidated from the outside, as if it was about to collapse. However, the inside was quite neat and clean. It did not have the dilapidated aura from the outside. On the stone pillars at both ends of the stone hall, there were dim yellow lamps hanging from them. The dim light made the deep stone hall appear even more sinister and strange. Deng deng deng. Only the crisp sound of Zhuowen's feet touching the ground could be heard in the silent stone hall. It faintly reverberated, and even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. What a strange stone hall. There are clearly lamps lit all around the stone hall, but it seems so quiet. It is as if no one has ever been inside. Zhuowen could not help but mutter as he vigilantly scanned his surroundings. At this moment, Xiaohe on Zhuowen's shoulder was concentrating on releasing its divine sense in an attempt to spy on the inside of the stone hall. However, what surprised it was that there seemed to be an extremely powerful restriction in the stone hall that could actually block the probing of its divine sense. "Kid, be careful. This stone hall can actually block this Dragon Lord's divine sense. From now on, this Dragon Lord will not be able to help you. You better be careful," Xiaohe on his shoulder said with a grave expression. Hearing this, Zhuowen was shocked. He did not expect that there would actually be a restriction in the stone hall that could block out divine sense. Even Xiaohe's divine sense was useless against it. This faintly made Zhuowen feel a trace of an ominous premonition. Zhuowen was the only one in the enormous stone hall. All he could hear was his own footsteps. Such a strange atmosphere caused Zhuowen to involuntarily feel goosebumps all over his body, causing him to feel a chill run down his spine. After walking through a long corridor, Zhuowen finally arrived at the main hall. The main hall was rather large. The area covered by the lamps was at least 100 feet wide. As for the other areas, Zhuowen could not make any guesses due to the pitch-black darkness. At the end of the main hall, there was a huge throne. The throne was completely blood-red, and there were 2 large skulls hanging on both sides of the armrests. Their dark, empty eyes were staring straight at Zhuowen. It was a very strange sight. As he walked closer, Zhuowen discovered that the blood-red throne was actually built from the huge skeleton of some kind of creature. Piles of white bones were cast. A dense smell of blood assaulted his nostrils, causing Zhuowen to involuntarily frown. At this moment, a majestic figure in blood-red armor sat quietly on the blood-red throne. His right elbow was resting on the skull on the armrest. His left hand was stroking his chin as if he was thinking about something. He was completely unaware of Zhuowen's arrival. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as he looked at the figure in blood-red armor on the throne. The figure in blood-red armor was not human. Just sitting there, it was already over 30 feet tall. If it stood up, it would probably be over 10 feet tall. What made Zhuowen even more fearful was that the aura that the figure in blood-red armor gave off was extremely terrifying. It actually faintly suppressed Bai Lin behind him. The figure in blood-red armor was probably even stronger than Bai Lin. Thinking of this, Zhuowen became even more fearful. He could not help but tighten his grip on the weapon in his hand. The figure in blood-red armor in front of him gave him too much pressure. He could not afford to be careless in the slightest. Xiaohei, do you know what this guy is? The aura on his body is very terrifying. I feel that it will be very difficult to fight him. Suddenly, Zhuowen softly asked Xiaohei, who was on his shoulder. This is the ancient blood clan. They were an extremely famous race in the ancient times. In the ancient times, their numbers were extremely large. They even outnumbered humans by a lot. Back then, they were also much stronger than humans. The ancient blood clan took orders from the blood demon. They were the blood demon's most loyal servants, Xiaohei said softly. Ancient blood clan? His brows furrowed. Although he did not know the origins of the ancient blood clan, it was not difficult to deduce from Xiaohei's words that the ancient blood clan should have been an extremely terrifying race in the ancient times. How strong is this ancient blood clan? Do we have any hope of dealing with it? Zhuowen softly asked the most pressing question in his heart. The ancient blood clan loves to drink human blood the most. The ancient blood clan in front of us is probably comparable to an ultimate 5-wheel emperor realm cultivator. As for how strong it is, even I can't tell at the moment, Xiaohei said gravely. Clang. Suddenly, the figure in blood-red armor who was originally sitting on the blood-red throne stood up. The figure in blood-red armor was wearing a mask, so Zhuowen could not see the creature's true appearance. He could only see a pair of scarlet eyes staring at him. Chapter 559. Ugly and narcissistic thud. Perhaps to the blood-armored creature, the human warrior in front of it was nothing more than a feast. I haven't tasted human blood for a long time. I've almost forgotten how blood tastes like. Brat, you've come at the right time. I've decided to let you die painlessly. This is my reward for you. Haha. Soon, the blood-armored creature was 3 meters away from Zhuowen. Its gigantic body was like a small mountain compared to Zhuowen. It looked down at the human below it greedily. The blood-armored creature's right hand, which had sharp claws, slowly reached for Zhuowen's head. It liked to twist off human heads and drink the blood that gushed out. It was a wonderful feeling. However, it soon realized that its sharp claws had grabbed empty air. The human in front of it had somehow dodged its claws at lightning speed. How dare a mere member of the ancient blood clan speak so arrogantly? Even if the blood demon was here today, he wouldn't have the right to make me, Zhuowen, stand there obediently and accept my death. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak so arrogantly? A cold smile appeared on Zhuo Wen's face. The tyrannical dragon-scale bone spear in his right hand had already pierced through the void at a critical moment. He suddenly swept towards the blood-armored creature's head and directly struck its mask. Bang! The blood-armored creature didn't expect Zhuo Wen to suddenly attack, and the bone spear struck its mask. The sound of metal clashing against metal rang out, and the blood-armored creature's mask was instantly shattered, revealing its hideous face. Seeing the face behind the blood-armored creature's mask, Zhuo Wen could not help but be stunned. He shivered for no reason because the blood-armored creature's face was extremely ugly. Its face was red, and there were many red oval-shaped protrusions on its skin that almost covered its entire face. They were densely packed together, making it look extremely disgusting and horrifying. What an ugly creature! Stepping in the air, Zhuo Wen stared at the blood-armored creature's true appearance, and a look of disgust appeared on his face. This blood-armored creature was indeed too ugly. Even though Zhuo Wen had a good temperament, he could not help but feel nauseous. Ugly? Damned human, you actually dare to insult me like this. You should know that I'm a famous handsome man in the ancient blood clan. You, a brat who stinks of milk, actually dare to call me ugly? You're simply courting death. When the mask was broken, the blood-armored creature became furious, especially when it heard Zhuo Wen say that it was ugly. The blood-armored creature became even more irritable, and a dangerous arc appeared in its scarlet eyes. Damn it, how could it think of itself as a handsome man when it looked like that? There must be something wrong with its head. Hearing the narcissistic words of the blood-armored creature in front of him and looking at its disgusting face, Zhuo Wen really had the urge to kill this monster in front of him. It was not that he had never seen an ugly monster before, but it was the first time he had seen one of such a high quality. You damnable human, you'll pay for what you've done later. I'll definitely kill you later. The blood-armored creature cursed without any elegance. Then, under Zhuo Wen's strange gaze, it actually took out a blood-red mirror from its armor and pretended to look at itself. Ayo! This seat's handsome, unparalleled, soft and smooth skin was almost ruined by a damned human like you. Fortunately, you didn't cut this seat's skin. Otherwise, this seat would definitely teach you a lesson. Looking at itself in the mirror, the blood-armored creature actually said narcissistic words that made Zhuo Wen's stomach turn again. F***CKU. It's not your fault that you're ugly, but it's your fault that you're ugly and narcissistic. Get lost to hell as soon as possible. Zhuo Wen really could not stand the narcissistic words and actions of the blood-armored creature. Black lines appeared on his forehead as he attacked decisively. He could not guarantee that he would not lose his integrity if he continued watching. Whoosh! The blood-armored creature was quite alert. It stomped its foot and turned into a bloody shadow, dodging Zhuo Wen's attack. Then, the blood-red mirror in its right hand suddenly smashed towards Zhuo Wen's head. His brows furrowed slightly. The crimson-armored creature was quite powerful, and its reaction speed was quite fast. It was able to dodge his attack with ease, and it was even able to counterattack in a leisurely manner. Zhuo Wen held the bone spear with both hands and blocked the blood-red mirror that the blood-armored creature had thrown at him. With a dull sound of metal clashing, Zhuo Wen felt his hands sink. He grunted and involuntarily took a dozen steps back. What a rude human. How dare you sneak attack me? Looks like you'll really think I'm a freeloader if I don't teach you a lesson. The blood-armored creature narrowed its eyes as a trace of coldness appeared in its voice. Clearly, Zhuo Wen's actions had completely infuriated it. Boom! The blood-armored creature stomped its foot, and the powerful force almost directly cracked the ground. It immediately turned into a huge, bloody shadow that shot towards Zhuo Wen. Die for me! A fist that was about 10 feet in size mercilessly descended from the sky and smashed towards Zhuo Wen's head with a whooshing sound. Zhuo Wen's expression changed slightly when he sensed the powerful might in the creature's fist. This strike had completely surpassed the might of a 4-wheel Ultimate King Realm Cultivator. It had probably reached the level of a 5-wheel Ultimate King Realm Cultivator. With Zhuo Wen's current strength, he would definitely pay a heavy price if he was struck by this strike. Bai Lin, come and block it for me. Without further ado, Zhuo Wen summoned Bai Lin. Bai Lin, who was dressed in a white shirt, immediately stood in front of Zhuo Wen. Bai Lin also threw a punch, which directly clashed with the blood-armored creature. Boom! 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 The two fists collided. Instantly, countless ring-shaped waves of air surged out. The surrounding space shattered into pieces, and the sound of glass shattering rang out continuously. Zhuowen had hurriedly retreated several dozen meters away when Bai Lin blocked the blood-armored creature's attack. He looked at Bai Lin and the blood-armored creature with lingering fear. Thump! 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 There's actually a human with such a terrifying body. How rare! The blood-armored creature squinted its eyes as it stared ahead. Bai Lin, who was dressed in a white robe, was shocked. The ancient blood clan was known for their strong physical bodies, and they had an advantage over humans. Although the blood-armored creature had been trapped in the land of blood demons' inheritance for tens of thousands of years, it had seen many humans who had entered the land of inheritance. It knew that humans relied on the power of heaven and earth and other strange energies to obtain their strength. They did not rely on their strong physical bodies like the blood-armored creature. However, the white-robed human in front of it was different. The strength of his physical body was abnormal, and it was not inferior to the blood-armored creature's. This was something that the blood-armored creature had never expected. It could not imagine how a human ancient martial art practitioner could have such a strong physical body. Of course, if the blood-armored creature knew that Bai Lin was a puppet, it might not be so shocked. However, Bai Lin's appearance was too realistic, and under Zhuowen's control, the lifeless look in his eyes was hidden. He looked like a living human. Bai Lin stood at the other end without saying a word. His eyes were still filled with calmness. Hey! No matter what, two human ancient martial art practitioners have appeared at once. That's enough for me to eat. Now, I'll start with you, Gigolo. Then, I'll take care of that rude brat. The crimson-armored creature grinned, and with its hideous appearance, many children would be frightened to tears. However, the crimson-armored creature didn't seem to be aware of this. It even brushed its sparse red hair and struck a pose that would make one want to puke. Boom! After getting into position, the crimson-armored creature suddenly pulled out a massive crimson axe and rushed toward Bai Lin in large strides, its aura surging to the extreme. Under Zhuowen's command, Bai Lin also strode towards the blood-armored creature. He was not to be outdone. Boom! 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 In an instant, the blood-armored creature and Bai Lin were entangled in a fight. In an instant, earth-shattering explosions sounded continuously in the hall. Countless shockwaves turned into spirals and spread in all directions. Bang! 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 Huge stone pillars collapsed one by one from the shockwaves of their battle. Almost half of the large hall was reduced to dust. It looked extremely desolate and run down. What a terrifying battle! This is already the 5th round of a battle between Ultimate Emperor Realm martial art practitioners. I can't interfere at all. A trace of shock appeared on Zhuowen's face as he watched the two figures fight in the center. The strength that the two of them displayed far exceeded his. Even an ordinary attack was comparable to his strongest attack. If he was swept into this battle, he would probably be severely injured even if he did not die. Kid. Bai Lin is at a disadvantage. That blood-armored creature is extremely powerful. I'm afraid that it is considered to be one of the most talented geniuses in the ancient blood clan. Its physical body is terrifyingly tough. Even Bai Lin is having a hard time dealing with it. Suddenly, Blackie said with a serious expression. What? Bai Lin is at a disadvantage? Zhuowen frowned when he heard this. Indeed, Bai Lin was retreating from the battle in the center. It seemed like he was losing his strength. Boom! One of the two figures who were fighting in the air was suddenly sent flying backward and crashed into the ground of the stone hall, forming a huge crater. The figure in the crater was Bai Lin in his white robes. At this moment, Bai Lin was in a sorry state. Hee. Human martial art practitioner, your body is indeed strong. However, compared to me, you are still far from it. Now, you should die. Chapter 560. The cowardly member of the blood clan in the deep pit, Bai Lin stood up in a sorry state. Facing the blood axe in the sky, there was no fear on his face. He was originally a puppet and did not have any human emotions. Naturally, he did not feel the slightest bit of fear. Zhuowen, who was not far away, frowned slightly. The blood-armored creature's blood axe was indeed powerful. It was even more powerful than Bai Lin's. If Bai Lin was hit by it, he would probably be severely injured. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He threw the bronze coffin in his left hand away. Bai Lin was now a great help to him, and he could not let him be destroyed just like that. After all, if he was destroyed, he would need a lot of time and resources to repair it. It would be extremely disadvantageous to him. A green light flashed and the bronze coffin suddenly appeared in front of Bai Lin. Then, the green light shone brightly and the bronze coffin expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. It grew from a few feet in size to a few hundred feet in size. It was like a pillar that supported the heavens. The blood-red axe swept through the air in a blood-red arc. The moment it appeared, it struck the bronze coffin viciously. Immediately, the blood-red and azure light surged through the entire hall, vaguely dividing the hall into two different regions. Countless bursts of air exploded in all directions. Clang! A crisp sound was heard. The blood axe, which was like a hot knife through butter, shattered into countless blood-red pieces the moment it hit the bronze coffin. What? What is this? How could it shatter my personal weapon? The blood-armored creature's mouth was slightly agape. It looked at the bronze coffin with fear in its eyes. The hardness of its blood axe was not weaker than an earthly soul treasure. Even if it wanted to shatter the blood axe, it would not be that easy. However, the blood axe had been shattered by the sudden appearance of this bronze coffin. This had truly shocked its teeth out. No matter what it is, since it dared to shatter my personal weapon, I will shatter it directly. The crimson-armored creature seemed to be a little stubborn. Seeing that its crimson axe had been destroyed, it immediately vented its anger on the bronze coffin below. Although the aura of the bronze coffin made it a little wary, it was still quite confident in its own power. Whoosh! The blood-armored creature took a step forward in the air, and its hand, which was covered with spikes, smashed downwards without hesitation. The powerful force almost caused the air to sizzle, and the surrounding space was distorted. Blood chi was boiling. Ah! What was going on? My hand. When the crimson-armored creature finally crashed into the bronze coffin, the sinister smile on its face slowly faded. It was replaced by intense fear, as if it had encountered the most terrifying thing in its life. This was because he discovered that not only was his strength unable to do anything to the strange bronze coffin in front of him, the green light on the surface of the coffin was like maggots that latched onto his arm. Waves of terrifying corrosive power spread out, and his right arm instantly disappeared without a trace. Whoosh! The crimson-armored creature let out a blood-curdling howl as it hurriedly escaped from the bronze coffin. Droplets of blood fell from the sky like cherry blossoms, creating a terrifying sight to behold. From the moment the crimson-armored creature came into contact with the bronze coffin to the moment it lost its arm, only half a breath had passed. Before Zhuowen could react, the crimson-armored creature had already lost an arm and retreated a few hundred meters away with a pained and horrified look on its face. This. Is the bronze coffin so powerful? It actually broke the crimson-armored creature's arm the moment it came into contact with it. Zhuowen's eyebrows furrowed slightly as a trace of astonishment surfaced on his face. Although the bronze coffin was a heavenly soul treasure, it was merely a support-type soul treasure. No matter how high the quality of such a soul treasure was, it was unlikely for its offensive power to be so incisive. After all, the crimson-armored creature was a powerful existence that could suppress Bai Lin in all aspects. However, it had lost an arm the moment it came into contact with the bronze coffin. Zhuowen was both surprised and delighted at this moment. It's not that the bronze coffin is powerful, but that the bronze coffin seems to be extremely effective against the ancient blood clan. It can be said that it's the nemesis of the blood clan. This is also why the unlucky blood clan member's arm was completely corroded when he came into contact with the coffin. And if it weren't for the fact that the blood clan member reacted quickly enough, it wouldn't have just lost an arm. Xiao Hei appeared on Zhuowen's shoulder at this moment with a sly smile on her face. A sliver of understanding appeared on Zhuowen's face when he heard that. Soon after, a sly smile similar to Xiao Hei appeared on his face. The man and dog looked at each other and smiled, before looking at the fearful crimson-armored creature with ill intentions. The crimson-armored creature seemed to sense their gazes. It turned around and immediately saw the man and dog staring at it from not too far away as they constantly sneered. In particular, Xiao Hei's smile was extremely lewd, to the point that the crimson-armored creature almost wanted to rush over and *CK it up. However, the crimson-armored creature held back in the end. After stanching the wound on its right arm, it coldly said to Xiao Hei, who was on Zhuowen's shoulder, "It's fine if human warriors laugh at me, but you, Xiao Hei, who came out of nowhere, actually dare to laugh at me. Do you believe that I won't roast you and eat dog meat? Xiao Hei, eat dog meat." When the crimson-armored creature spat out these two somewhat insulting words, the lewd smile on Xiao Hei's face froze on Zhuowen's shoulder. All of its fur stood on end, and a rare human-like expression of anger appeared on its tanned face. Fuck. This Lord Dragon is a supreme member of the Dragon Clan. How dare you, a mere member of the Blood Clan, treat this Lord Dragon like a black dog? This is unforgivable. Brat, give me the bronze coffin and *CK it up. Immediately, Xiao Hei became flustered and exasperated. Its eyes were filled with anger and indignation. Its little paw pointed at the huge crimson-armored creature in front of it and scolded it shamelessly. Its words were extremely vicious, and it basically used the crimson-armored creature's ugly flaws to criticize it. Fuck. A Xiao Hei dog actually dares to insult me. You must be tired of living. I will definitely kill you today and eat dog meat tonight. As if its sore spot had been poked, the crimson-armored creature roared angrily. With a stomp of its foot, it suddenly shot towards Zhuowen. Its angry roars continuously resounded throughout the stone hall. Seeing the crimson-armored creature rushing towards him, Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He immediately ordered Bai Lin, who was not far away, to throw the bronze coffin over. With a flash of green light, it immediately landed in Zhuowen's hand. At this moment, the bronze coffin had already shrunk back to its original size. It was held in Zhuowen's hand like a shield. Seeing the bronze coffin in Zhuowen's hand, the crimson-armored creature, who was originally charging towards him, immediately became terrified. It could not help but curse in its heart. It hurriedly turned around, wanting to get away from Zhuowen. Brat! Don't let this bastard go. I must kill him today. How dare he call this Lord Dragon a dog? He must be tired of living. Xiao Hei shamelessly hooted on Zhuowen's shoulder. However, she sat calmly on Zhuowen's shoulder and did nothing. Without needing Xiao Hei's instructions, Zhuowen had already moved. He instantly caught up with the crimson-armored creature that had turned around. With a swing of his left hand, he threw the huge bronze coffin directly at the crimson-armored creature. Ah! With a shrill howl, the crimson-armored creature fell to the ground, crying for its parents. The ground cracked, and a huge crater that was tens of feet deep was created. In the middle of the crater, the crimson-armored creature's back had already been corroded, and there was a huge hole in it. Don't even think about escaping. You'll just die here today. Zhuowen's face was emotionless. Since he knew that the bronze coffin was so effective against this ancient member of the Blood Clan, Zhuowen naturally had to make good use of it. Without hesitation, he immediately rushed towards the crimson-armored creature. The bronze coffin that was ready to attack mercilessly attacked. Bang! 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 In just an hour, the crimson-armored creature in the stone hall had been hit by the bronze coffin nearly 30 times. It was extremely miserable every time. The crimson-armored creature's body had basically been corroded by the power of the bronze coffin. Many parts of its body were exposed, revealing skin that was covered in red spots. It looked extremely disgusting. At the same time, the crimson-armored creature's injuries were extremely severe. His skin was torn and his flesh was badly mangled. Green blood flowed continuously from his wounds, making him look extremely hideous and miserable. Sirs, please spare my life. I shouldn't have offended Lord Dog just now. This lowly one has eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. I hope that the two sirs will let this lowly one off. This lowly one knows that the two sirs are planning to go to the 9th level. Don't worry, this lowly one will immediately open the path to the 9th level for the two sirs. Seeing that he was completely restrained by the bronze coffin, The crimson-armored creature knew that if he continued to fight, he would definitely die. Thus, he knelt down and begged for mercy. This fellow, seeing the crimson-armored creature kneeling down and begging for mercy so readily, Zhuowen and Xiao He couldn't help but be stunned. When this ancient member of the Blood Clan first appeared, he was so domineering and majestic. He looked like an expert. Now that he was defeated, he was begging for mercy so easily. The contrast between before and after was too great. Brat. Let's just kill this member of the Blood Clan. Keeping this thing alive is also a disaster. Why don't we just send him to hell? That might be a good choice for him. Xiao He harumphed coldly. She hated the Blood Clan very much. That's true. After killing you, the entrance to the 9th stage will automatically open. There's no use keeping you alive at all. So, you should just die. Nodding his head, Zhuowen's face grew colder. He slowly raised the bronze coffin in his hand and was about to kill the crimson-armored creature. Don't kill me. I can provide you with some important information. I know that you want to enter the core area of the Blood Demon's inheritance land. However, there's already a human warrior guarding the core area. I'm afraid that you won't be able to get anything if you go in. If you let me go, I'm willing to tell you everything I know. As Zhuowen slowly raised the bronze coffin above his head, the crimson-armored creature finally couldn't stand the fear of death and told him the secret that he had never mentioned before. What? There's a human in the Blood Demon's inheritance land? How is that possible? Are you lying? Zhuowen's eyes flickered and suddenly became extremely cold. Chapter 561. Another human. Xiao He. Can we believe what this guy says? After pondering for a moment, Zhuowen still wanted to ask for Xiao He's opinion. I'm not sure either. However, you have the bronze coffin that can suppress the Blood Clan. I don't think this little Blood Clan member will dare to do anything. It's not impossible for you to go to his cave abode, Xiao He said after thinking for a while. Zhuowen nodded when he heard this, and then he kicked the blood-armored being and said, "Lead the way. I still have to go to the core area of the Blood Demon's land of inheritance. Don't waste my time." Yes. Don't worry, my residence is in this stone hall. We'll be there soon." The blood-armored creature heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Zhuowen was not going to kill him. He quickly put on a flattering smile and lowered his head. As he spoke, the blood-armored creature hurriedly went to the throne in front of him and chanted a few cryptic words. Suddenly, the blood-colored throne shattered, and a cave that was as tall as a person appeared underneath. It looked extremely deep and serene. "Just follow me, sirs." As he spoke, the blood-armored creature went into the cave. Zhuowen's eyes flickered and he followed him into the cave. The cave was not long. After a while, Zhuowen followed the blood-armored creature to the end. There was a rather spacious space at the end. There were many decorations inside and a huge bone bed sat in the middle of the space. This must be the blood-armored creature's bedroom. You really know how to enjoy life. You actually made such a place below the stone hall. Xiao He narrowed his eyes and sneered. The blood-armored creature's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. However, he quickly put on a flattering smile and said, "I've made a fool of myself in front of you. This is just a cave abode that I made in the past. It can avoid the surveillance of the one in the core area. This is also the reason why I brought you in." The one in the core area? Zhuowen immediately caught a hint of strangeness from the blood-armored creature's words. He quickly asked, "Is the one in the core area the soul of the Blood Demon?" You actually know that Lord Blood Demon is in the core area?" Zhuowen's sudden mention of the soul of the Blood Demon stunned the crimson-armored creature. It couldn't help but stutter. The fact that the Blood Devil's soul was hidden in the Blood Devil inheritance was a top secret. Aside from the creatures in the trial, it was impossible for outsiders to know about this secret. Otherwise, human experts would have already come to eliminate the Blood Devil's soul in the Blood Devil inheritance. The soul of the Blood Devil really exists in the core area? Tell me in detail about the Blood Devil's land of inheritance, and what's the deal with the humans you mentioned in the core area? After thinking for a moment, Zhuowen hurriedly asked. Now that its life was in Zhuowen's hands, the blood-armored creature didn't dare lie. It told him everything it knew about the blood demon legacy. Zhuo Wen and Xiao Hei's expressions darkened as they listened to the crimson-armored creature. It turned out that the Blood Devil's land of inheritance was just a cover. It was actually formed by the soul of the Blood Devil. It was said that 10,000 years ago, when the Vitality Tower was first built, it was used for the disciples of various sects to enter the trial. Its purpose wasn't much different from the current one. However, 10,000 years ago, there were specialized experts controlling the Vitality Tower to prevent the disciples from dying. It wasn't like now, where the cultivators' lives were basically up to the heavens. It could be said that it was extremely safe. However, for some reason, the Blood Devil that was supposed to be extinct suddenly appeared on the 4th floor of the Vitality Tower. It caused a huge massacre in the Vitality Tower. Almost all of the hundreds of thousands of disciples who entered the Vitality Tower died. Only a few managed to escape. It should be known that those who could enter the Vitality Tower to train were basically the elite disciples of various sects. Losing so many elite disciples with potential all at once infuriated countless sects one after another. They sent experts to encircle and annihilate Bloodseeker. Unfortunately, the primordial Blood Devils were extremely powerful, especially this one. Not only had its strength reached the peak of the Emperor Realm, but the hundreds of thousands of sect disciples who had died in the Vitality Tower had all been turned into primordial Blood Devils. They were all under its control, and it took over the entire Vitality Tower. With the advantage of the Vitality Tower, even if the sect leaders of various sects and dozens of Emperor Realm experts joined forces, they still couldn't break through the Vitality Tower. Instead, they suffered heavy casualties. 10,000 years ago, the Eastern Land was ruled by the Rika. Every Rika disciple could awaken a powerful dragon soul. Their combat strength was far beyond their peers. The Rika clan leader had even reached the Saint Realm. In the Eastern Land back then, he was an existence that countless sects respected. Therefore, the various sects had no choice but to ask the Rika clan leader for help. In the end, the Rika clan leader agreed to help. He only used one move to destroy the countless blood breeds in the Vitality Tower. Even the Blood Devil, whose strength had reached the peak of the Emperor Realm, was severely injured by the Rika clan leader's move. His body was shattered, and only a wisp of his soul was left. However, the Blood Devil was extremely cunning and had a terrifying concealment technique. Therefore, everyone thought that the Blood Devil was dead. They didn't know that the Blood Devil still had a wisp of his soul. It was just that he hid it very well. Later, the 10,000-year calamity descended. Countless talented experts fell. Among them, the Rika clan leader of the Eastern Land was annihilated. Since then, the situation in the Eastern Land changed drastically. The Blue Dragon Hall, which was originally unknown, rose to become the new leader of the Eastern Land. The Vitality Pagoda was also from ancient times. It had been completely preserved until now, and the disaster of the Blood Devil was basically forgotten by everyone. The soul of the Blood Devil that was originally hidden in the 4th floor of the Vitality Pagoda had turned into this Blood Devil inheritance and entered a deep slumber. When it woke up one day, it would bring disaster again. There's actually such a secret. I didn't expect the Rika clan leader to be involved in the Blood Devil's calamity. Zhuowen's eyes flickered when he heard about the Rika clan leader. The Zhuo family was a descendant of the Rika clan leader. Zhuo Xiangding had told him about the glorious deeds of the Rika clan leader. However, he didn't expect the Rika clan leader to be so powerful. Even the clan leader was in the Saint Realm. It was indeed terrifying. However, Zhuowen knew that the matters of the Rika clan leader were too distant for him, so he didn't delve too deeply into it. Instead, he looked at the blood-armored being and asked, "You just said that the Blood Devil in the core area would monitor this space. Has the Blood Devil's soul awakened?" The blood-armored being shook his head and said, "The Blood Devil hasn't completely awakened. He only awakens intermittently. Just now, the Blood Devil was actually in a deep sleep. However, this lowly one was being cautious. After all, if the Blood Devil found out that I told you these secrets in private, I would be dead." After confirming that the blood-armored being wasn't lying, Zhuowen nodded and asked the last question, "You just said that there's a human in the core area. Who is that?" "This lowly one doesn't know that person. He's a human warrior who broke into the Blood Devil's inheritance 100 years ago. This person is extremely powerful. He passed through 18 trials in a row and directly reached the core area. Unfortunately, the core area is where the Blood Devil is in a deep sleep. If you want to obtain the Blood Devil's inheritance, you have to defeat the Blood Devil completely. However, the chances of that are very small. However, that person is indeed powerful. Although the Blood Devil did everything he could to devour that person's essence and blood, he didn't succeed. Instead, that person became stronger and stronger. In the end, even the Blood Devil couldn't do anything to that person. This matter has already spread through this space. A rare look of respect appeared on the blood-armored being's face when he mentioned the person in the core area. He didn't expect that such a person could make the Blood Clan, who hated humans, reveal such an expression. 100 years ago? Since he can't obtain the inheritance, why doesn't that person come out? Zhuowen asked in confusion. At the same time, he had already guessed who that person was. Although that person is extremely powerful and even the Blood Devil couldn't do anything to him, it's a pity that this space was created by the Blood Devil. If the Blood Devil doesn't want that person to come out, that person can't come out at all unless his strength reaches the Emperor realm. The blood-armored being shook his head. Hearing this, Zhuowen fell into deep thought. According to the blood-armored being, that person had entered the Blood Devil's inheritance 100 years ago. 100 years ago should be during the previous Vitality Tower battle, and there was only one prodigy who chose the Blood Devil's inheritance at that time. Could it be the number one prodigy in Muqin County, the one who defeated countless prodigies in Muqin County and caused quite a stir in the imperial capital county, Lu Hantian? Xiao He suddenly asked in confusion. Apart from Lu Hantian, I really can't think of anyone else. However, there are rumors that Lu Hantian died because of the Blood Devil's inheritance, right? Moreover, Lu Nantian once said that Lu Hantian had escaped from the Blood Devil's inheritance and brought out some of the Blood Devil's secret techniques and treasures. However, he died because of his injuries. Zhuowen looked at the blood-armored being with a flattering smile not far away, but his heart was filled with confusion. What the blood-armored being said was actually different from what Lu Nantian had said. Who was telling the truth? Kid. This Blood Clan member doesn't look like he's lying, and there's no need for him to lie. After all, if he says something wrong, he'll have to pay with his life, Xiao He suddenly said. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. He also felt that the blood-armored being didn't seem to be lying. However, there were still many suspicious points about Lu Hantian. It was likely that Lu Hantian had concealed a lot of things from Lu Nantian. Perhaps after entering the core area and seeing Lu Hantian in person, you should be able to find out the truth. Xiao He curled her lips. Yes. It's time to enter the core area. Hurry up and open the passage. Zhuowen nodded and suddenly pointed at the blood-armored being. Chapter 562. Thunder Dragon Wings. The blood-armored being hurriedly made a hand seal to open up the passage to the 9th level. He nodded and bowed to Zhuowen and Xiao He. Please take care. Zhuowen nodded and ignored the blood-armored creature. Just as he was about to leave, he caught a glimpse of the center of the cave from the corner of his eyes. He was stunned. Wait. The smile on the blood-armored being's face froze. He could not help but wail in his heart. What's wrong with this guy? If he wants to leave, then leave quickly. Why did he suddenly stop? My heart is about to jump out of my chest. Even though the crimson-armored creature was grumbling to himself, he still put on a warm and fawning smile as he said, Please feel free to tell me what you need, and I'll do my best to accomplish it for you. Zhuowen did not care about the blood-armored being who was trying to curry favor with him. He took a step forward and arrived at the huge bed of bones in the center of the open space. His right hand shone with a golden light as he slammed it down. Instantly, the huge bed of bones shattered into pieces. The smile on the blood-armored being's face froze again. His eyelids twitched when he saw the bed of bones that had been turned into pieces. He almost cursed out loud, but when he saw the bronze coffin on Zhuowen's body, he held himself back in the end. He knew that if he really cursed out loud, the harmless-looking kid in front of him would definitely be the first to kill him. Hence, he cleverly remained silent. However, he was wailing in his heart. Where am I going to sleep in the future? Zhuowen waved his right hand, and a black shadow was sucked into his palm. At a glance, it was just an unremarkable piece of black iron. It looked very ordinary. Could it be? At this moment, Xiao Hei, who was on his shoulder, seemed to have noticed the uniqueness of the metal block. She could not help but exclaim, I can't be sure yet. Let me check it with my mental strength. Calming down the excitement in his heart, Zhuowen's mental energy from his Niwen palace slowly entered the metal block. After a while, Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes, which were filled with joy. Ha! As expected, it was one of the 6 wings of wind and lightning. Moreover, it was the 3rd wing of the lightning wings, the lightning dragon wing. I really didn't expect that Zhuowen would actually obtain the lightning wing's 3rd wing in this place. Looks like fate really makes fools of people. Zhuowen could not help saying excitedly. At this moment, Xiao Hei was also filled with excitement. The more complete the 6 wings of wind and lightning were, the more beneficial it would be to the recovery of its origin energy. Compared to Zhuowen, it wanted Zhuowen to obtain a treasure like the Saint Talisman the most. Hey, how did you get this piece of metal? Do you have any more of this kind of iron? After coming back to her senses, Xiao Hei hurriedly pointed at the crimson armored creature not far away. She had no idea why Zhuowen and Xiao Hei were laughing. Seeing that it was her, the crimson armored creature hurriedly smiled and glanced at the piece of metal. This little one obtained it from a human cultivator who challenged the blood demon inheritance. This is the only piece I have. After taking a closer look at the crimson armored creature and confirming that it was not lying, Xiao Hei sent it away and said regretfully, looks like this guy only has 1 piece of metal in his cave. What a pity. It's already good enough to obtain 1 piece. It's better than nothing. Moreover, the 6 wings of wind and lightning were scattered tens of thousands of years ago. Being able to find 1 piece is already pretty good luck. I've already found 3 pieces. Perhaps in the future, when the time comes, I might be able to obtain the remaining 3 pieces. Zhuowen shook his head. Hearing this, Xiao Hei nodded in a serious manner. Looks like this dragon lord was a little too greedy. The thunder dragon wings should be the strongest of the thunder wings. If you cultivate it, I'm afraid that there won't be any cultivators in the ultimate emperor realm who can catch up to you. Your speed will be unimaginably fast. A fiery heat surfaced in Zhuowen's eyes when he heard these words. If he was able to completely master this lightning dragon wings, even an expert like Xu Chang would not be able to kill him easily if he wanted to escape. Since this matter is settled, let's go. After he found the thunder dragon wings, Zhuowen's mood was rather good. Thus, he directly withdrew the Bloodfiend command token from his cosmos pouch and formed a seal. The Bloodfiend command token instantly emitted a blood-red glow that enveloped Zhuowen into a blood-red cocoon. There was a teleportation array within the blood demon token. This teleportation array was still in an inactive state. Only by reaching the 8th stage of the blood demon inheritance land and passing through the passage of the 8th stage could the teleportation array be fully activated. Only then could Zhuowen rely on the blood demon token to teleport directly to the core area. Swoosh! As soon as the blood cocoon was formed, it immediately flew toward the entrance of the bloody vortex and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Just now, could it be, the blood demon token? At this moment, the blood-armored being was completely dumbfounded. He had already recognized the blood demon token when Zhuowen took it out, but he wasn't sure. However, now that he had seen Zhuowenhua disappear into the blood-red vortex in the form of a blood cocoon, he was 100% sure that it was the blood devil token. The blood demon token is a waste token refined by Lord Blood Demon. How could it appear on a human warrior? Did Lord Blood Demon give it to this human? The blood-armored being frowned. He felt that Zhuowen was even more mysterious. First, he had the bronze coffin that was extremely effective against him. Now, he even took out something as rare as the blood demon token, Rumble. This was a boundless sea of blood. In the middle of the sea of blood, there was a lone island standing alone. The lone island was tens of thousands of miles wide. The sky above it was filled with a misty bloody aura that blocked one's line of sight, making it impossible to see what was on the island. Whoosh! Suddenly, a crack appeared in the sky above the dense bloody aura. From the crack, a blood cocoon that was as tall as a person suddenly flew out and quietly floated above the bloody aura. It was as if a person was silently sizing up the lone island below. Zhuowen stood silently in the blood cocoon. Although it was impossible to see what was inside from the outside, Zhuowen, who was in the blood cocoon, could see everything outside at a glance. Below should be the core area of the Blood Devil's inheritance ground. I really didn't expect there to be such a lone island in this endless sea of blood. It's really quite strange, Zhuowen muttered as he looked down at the lone island from the blood cocoon. Boy, you'd better be careful. I can sense an extremely terrifying existence on this lone island. That existence should be the soul of the blood demon, Xiao He said with a grave expression. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded cautiously. Soon after, he controlled the blood cocoon to slowly descend. In fact, he was rather looking forward to seeing the Lu Hantian that the blood-armored being had mentioned. If Lu Hantian was really not dead, with his terrifying talent, he would definitely be extremely powerful. At the very least, he would be much more powerful than Lu Nantian. However, if even such a person could not leave the blood demon's inheritance land, wouldn't it be even more impossible for him to leave? Thinking of this, Zhuowen frowned and his expression became slightly ugly. He did not want to stay in this damned place for the rest of his life. You don't have to worry. You're the first person to reach the peak of Zhongling Mountain. The owner of the bronze coffin probably didn't send you here to harm you. Didn't you see how the bronze coffin suppressed the ancient blood clan? I'm afraid that your bronze coffin might be the key to dealing with the soul of the blood demon, Xiao He suddenly said. Maybe. Zhuowen replied casually. However, he was very clear about his own strength. So what if the bronze coffin could suppress the soul of the blood demon? His strength was still too weak. If he could find Lu Hantian in the core area and let Lu Hantian use the bronze coffin to deal with the soul of the blood demon, he might be able to defeat the soul of the blood demon. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Zhuowen's mind. He was indeed very weak, but Lu Hantian was a heaven's pride from 100 years ago. Such a heaven's pride was already invincible in Muqin County. After 100 years, his strength might have already reached the fourth reverend realm. After all, he was someone that even the soul of the blood demon couldn't do anything to. As long as he had the bronze coffin that could suppress the blood demon, Lu Hantian's chances of defeating the soul of the blood demon would greatly increase. Let's go. Let's enter the isolated island and find Lu Hantian first. He's the key to our escape from the blood demon inheritance. Thinking of this, a smile appeared on Zhuowen's face. It seemed that there was always a way out. He might really be able to decipher the blood demon inheritance. Whoosh! The blood cocoon streaked across the void and instantly descended on the isolated island that was filled with blood qi. This was a vast blood-colored wilderness. The strange thing was that there were roots that were as thick as an arm on the ground of this wilderness. They extended to the four corners of the wilderness and constantly pulsed like the veins of a human body. It was an extremely horrifying sight. Hiss! The blood cocoon slowly dissipated, revealing Zhuowen's slender body. At this moment, Zhuowen's face revealed a trace of doubt. This wilderness gave him an extremely strange feeling, especially the blood-colored veins that crisscrossed around him. It was as if Zhuowen was in the internal organs of some unknown giant beast. What a strange place. Zhuowen couldn't help but mutter to himself as he looked around. Boy, go ahead and take a look. There seems to be some movement at the corner up ahead. Suddenly, Xiao He's voice sounded in his mind. Hearing this, Zhuowen immediately noticed that there was a huge blood-colored hill a few hundred meters away. At the bottom of the hill, there was a winding path that extended to the other side of the hill. The movement that Xiao He mentioned earlier should be on the other side of the hill. Is there something over there? Zhuowen asked tentatively. This isolated island is very special. It can actually suppress divine sense. I can only sense that there's movement on the other side of the hill, but I'm not sure what it is. You should go and take a look. Xiao He shrugged. Chapter 563. Surrounded at the corner of the hill was a rather wide plain. The plain was densely packed with blood-red figures. Upon closer inspection, weren't these blood-red figures the ancient blood clan? With a single glance, Zhuowen discovered that there were no less than 100 ancient blood clan members. They constantly roamed the plain, and all of their auras were no weaker than the blood-armored creature that Zhuowen had encountered before. There were even some that were much stronger. Gulp. Zhuowen's throat involuntarily gulped when he saw the terrifying number of ancient blood clan members on the plain. His heart was already filled with shock. These several hundred ancient blood clan members were enough to instantly tear him apart. Even if he possessed the bronze coffin, it was unlikely that he would be a match for these ancient blood clan members. Xiao He. What should I do now? I never thought that there would actually be so many ancient blood clan members here. Zhuowen said with a slightly pale face as he slowly withdrew his body. At this moment, Xiao Hei's expression was extremely grave. She softly said, "We can only go around this plain. There are just too many ancient blood clan members. With your strength, you'll only be courting death if you face them." Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. He once again observed the group of blood clan members on the plains through the gap. When he discovered that they did not discover this uninvited guest, his heart that was in his throat finally relaxed. After which, he turned around and prepared to leave the plains. However, the moment he turned around, a huge and ugly blood-red face appeared in his line of sight. A pair of blood-red eyes filled with brutality met his gaze. Immediately, the place became eerily silent. At some unknown time, an ancient blood clan member had actually appeared behind him. Zhuowen was completely stunned. A human cultivator? It's actually a human cultivator. Haha, how many years has it been? A human cultivator has actually appeared again. Hee, human, you're mine. Let me suck your essence blood. The ancient blood clan member's appearance was similar to the blood-armored creature in the 8th stage. At this moment, its right claw suddenly slammed down towards Zhuowen's head. It wanted to directly crush Zhuowen's head. Zhuowen never thought that an ancient blood clan member would actually appear at the back of the hill. Even more so, he never thought that this ancient blood clan member would actually directly attack him. You're courting death. Zhuowen's eyes darkened, and he suddenly took out the bronze coffin. With a swing of his hands, the bronze coffin was like a giant door, and it directly smashed into the body of the blood clan member. Countless green lights poured out, and the body was completely corroded. How is that possible? Human. What is that thing in your hand? The powerful corrosive power directly split the blood clan in front of him into two. The upper half of his body that soared into the sky stared at Zhuowen below, his ugly face full of fear. The bronze coffin was a spirit treasure that countered the blood breeds. Now that Zhuowen had unleashed his full power, he was naturally able to kill this ancient blood breeds in an instant. What's going on? There's movement on the other side of the hill. I smell the blood of my own kind. Who dares to kill our ancient blood clan? Go. Let's go and take a look. The battle between Zhuowen and the blood clan ended in the blink of an eye. Although it was not loud, the 5 senses of the ancient blood clan members were far superior to ordinary warriors. Naturally, they could sense the activity on the other side of the hill. In particular, the smell of blood that permeated the air made the group of blood clan members feel that something was wrong. Whoosh, whoosh. Instantly, countless sounds of air being torn apart converged into a terrifying sonic boom. The several hundred ancient blood clan members on the plains all rushed toward the hill. They were like locusts as they covered the entire sky. It was a spectacular sight. Not good. All the ancient blood clan members in the plains are charging over. Zhuowen, run. Xiao He suddenly cried out anxiously in his mind. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He immediately noticed the countless blood shadows that covered the sky. His face was as pale as snow. Not caring about anything else, he hurriedly opened his thunder serpent wings and thunder flood dragon wings. With a stomp of his feet, he turned into an illusory lightning shadow and flew straight to the other side. It's a human martial artist. Another human martial artist has intruded into our master's sleeping place. Kill. Kill. All human martial artists deserve to die. This brat even dared to kill our own kind. He deserves to die even more. Frightening sonic booms intertwined in the sky, forming ear-piercing sonic booms. Numerous enormous ancient blood clan members noticed Zhuo Wen, who was miserably fleeing. Their eyes turned blood red as they chased after Zhuo Wen at an extremely fast speed. Damn it! How unlucky! I actually encountered the blood clan on the way. Looking at the black mass of blood clan members behind him, Zhuo Wen's expression was extremely ugly. If not for the blood clan member just now, he would have already stealthily avoided this group of blood clan members. It was a pity that his plans could not keep up with the changes. Human. You can't run away. It's really strange. You're so weak, but you actually managed to intrude into our master's sleeping place. How strange. However, you'll soon become my meal, he. Suddenly, a strange voice sounded from not far behind him. Zhuowen looked over and was shocked to discover that a huge blood clan member was closing in on him at a speed visible to the naked eye. This blood clan member was extremely huge, several times larger than an ordinary blood clan member. He was probably the leader of this group of blood clan members. The aura on his body was much stronger than the other blood clan members. He had probably reached the ultimate six-wheel emperor realm. Whoosh! This huge blood clan member took the lead and instantly arrived within 100 meters of Zhuowen. Furthermore, the distance between them was constantly closing. Human. Obediently accept your death. This blood clan member bared his teeth and roared. The blood chi in his hands surged and condensed into a long double-edged axe that was several feet long. He threw it with his right hand, and the double-edged axe spun violently and smashed directly at Zhuowen's back. Zhuowen frowned slightly when he heard the sound of something piercing through the air behind him. This blood clan member was not done yet. He actually did not want to let him go. He snorted coldly and flipped his right hand. The huge bronze coffin instantly appeared in his hands. He swung it violently, and the air was violently torn apart as it blasted towards the huge double-edged axe behind him. Clang! The crisp sound of metal clashing rang out. Then, the blood clan member was shocked to discover that the double-edged axe that he had thrown out had actually been shattered by the bronze coffin in the hands of the human in front of him. What a strange coffin. I can actually feel a trace of fear from it. The blood clan leader frowned slightly and looked at the bronze coffin in Zhuowen's hands with fear. He took a step forward and quickly rushed towards Zhuowen. After being delayed by the double-edged axe, Zhuowen's speed had also greatly decreased, and the blood clan leader caught up with him in an instant. Human ancient martial art practitioner, you killed my fellow clan member. Do you think I'll let it go just like that? You'll be buried with my fellow clan member. The blood clan leader revealed a trace of a sinister smile on his face. His huge blood claw was like a monstrous wave as it violently smashed towards Zhuowen below. Endless blood rays exploded, and the surrounding space collapsed. Damn it! Seeing the blood clan leader's blood claw pressing down on him, Zhuowen's face revealed a trace of anxiety. If he was delayed by this blood clan leader now, it would be too late for him to escape when the group of blood clan members behind him caught up. I can only deal with this blood clan leader first. If I let him drag this on, I'll be in danger. A trace of cold light flashed in Zhuowen's eyes. He did not hold back and swung the bronze coffin fiercely towards the blood clan leader. At the same time, the mental strength of the 4th grade Greater Mastery gushed out as he activated the 4th grade Origin Array Infinite Sword Aura to perform 3 major sword moves. Suddenly, the bronze coffin swelled up and became 100 feet tall. It was like a pillar that supported the heavens as it violently smashed onto the body of the blood clan leader. The sword light formed by the Infinite Sword Aura was like a terrifying whirlpool that also enveloped the blood clan leader. The blood clan leader was not afraid as he violently swung his huge blood claw. Endless blood chi was misty as it directly tore apart the sword light whirlpool formed by the Infinite Sword Aura. Its strength was extremely terrifying. After tearing apart the sword light whirlpool, the bronze coffin that was a few hundred feet tall came one after another and violently pressed onto the body of the blood clan leader. "Break for me!" The blood clan leader shouted as he stretched out both of his claws. They were like 2 huge blood mountains as they smashed onto the huge bronze coffin in the sky. Hiss hiss hiss. What? This coffin. The moment he came into contact with the bronze coffin, The Blood Clan leader was shocked to find that the green light on the surface of the coffin was like maggots that ate away at the bones. It directly corroded his hands. His arms were instantly eaten clean, and the corrosive force continued to corrode his torso. Damn it! Get lost. The leader of the Blood Clan was both shocked and furious. The intense fear caused him to explode with a terrifying power. He directly shook off the bronze coffin and spat out a mouthful of blood. Like a meteor, he smashed into the ground. What? The leader was actually defeated? That human brat's aura is very weak. Why is the leader in such a sorry state? The countless Blood Clan members that were rushing over from behind also revealed shocked expressions when they saw the Blood Clan leader in such a sorry state. All of you, go. Kill that damned human. Otherwise, all of you will die. In the deep pit, the Blood Clan leader's eyes were red as he roared at the sky with unwillingness. The human in front of him was too despicable. He was obviously very weak, but he actually had that strange bronze coffin on him that could restrain his strength. Feeling the Blood Clan leader's monstrous anger, the countless Blood Clan members behind could not help but shiver. Their leader was not a kind person. Even if it was them from the same clan, he would kill them without hesitation. They did not dare to disobey him in the slightest. Kill. Kill that human ancient martial art practitioner. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Upon receiving the Blood Kindred leader's order, hundreds of Blood Kindred charged towards Zhuo Wen, who was not far away, without any regard for their lives. Zhuo Wen had wasted too much time fighting with the Blood Kindred leader just now, and the Blood Kindred who had fallen behind had already caught up. Instantly, hundreds of Blood Clan members surrounded Zhuo Wen. They stared coldly at Zhuo Wen with their scarlet eyes. Damn it! This time, there's really no way out. Looking at the densely packed Blood Clan members around him, Zhuo Wen's expression was extremely ugly. He did not expect that he would still be unable to shake off the pursuit of these Blood Clan members. Go. Kill that human. The ultimate essence. Chapter 564. Lu Hantian brat, hurry up and summon Bai Lin, then use the bronze coffin to block them. Xiao Hei's furious voice rang in his ears. Without hesitation, Zhuo Wen opened the lid of the bronze coffin. Bai Lin, who was dressed in white, stood guard beside him. At the same time, the bronze coffin emitted a dazzling green glow, forming a green cage that enveloped Zhuo Wen. Boom! 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 Countless crimson figures surged forth, creating dazzling sparks. Although the bronze coffin had the ability to restrain the ancient blood tribe, the number of blood tribe members in the surroundings was too large. Even the bronze coffin was unable to withstand it. Bang! Instantly, a hole was smashed open in the cyan cage, and an ancient Blood Clan member snuck in with a sinister smile. Just as he was about to pounce on Zhuo Wen, a white figure dashed over, and Bai Lin blocked this ancient Blood Clan member's path. A great battle was about to break out. Bai Lin and the ancient Blood Tribe members immediately engaged in a bloody battle. Strong energy flew in all directions, and the air rose like an inverted waterfall, stirring up countless dust clouds. Bang! 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 A few more holes were torn in the green cage, and another 3 ancient Blood Tribe members charged towards Zhuo Wen. Zhuo Wen's face was gloomy. With a shake of his right hand, the tyrannical dragon-scale bone spear streaked across the void, and countless spear shadows greeted them. Bang! 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 As time passed, more and more holes appeared in the green cage, and more ancient Blood Tribe members surged in. The pressure on Zhuo Wen increased. Damn it, if this continues, I will eventually be besieged to death by these Blood Tribe members. Xiao Hei, what should I do? Zhuo Wen hurriedly asked Xiao Hei for help as he dealt with the Blood Tribe members in a sorry state. There's no other way. We can only fight to the end. If you can't hold on, only death will await you. This Dragon Lord has no other choice. Xiao Hei's helpless voice sounded in his mind. Hearing that, Zhuo Wen's face became even gloomier. Even Xiao Hei had no other choice. It seemed that he could only continue fighting. Perhaps there was still a chance of survival. Rumble. A strange sound was heard. Zhuo Wen's pupils shrank as he discovered that Bai Lin was being attacked by dozens of ancient Blood Clan members at the same time. His powerful body was being torn into pieces. With Bai Lin's death, the pressure on Zhuowen became even greater. Now, Zhuowen was basically fighting with his life on the line. He had used all of his trump cards, but he was still forced to retreat under the siege of so many Blood Clan members. Countless terrifying wounds appeared on his body, and blood kept flowing out. Boom! Just as Zhuowen was forced into a desperate situation, a blood spear hundreds of feet long shot up from the ground. A powerful aura erupted from the blood spear like a volcano. The surrounding air flowed upwards like an upside-down waterfall, creating thousands of ripples. The blood spear swept past Zhuowen, and countless spear shadows shot out in all directions like rain. They were like the most terrifying hidden weapons in the world, accurately shooting into the bodies of countless ancient Blood Clan members in the surroundings. At this moment, it was as if time had stopped. The surrounding blood breeds froze on the spot. Their faces were filled with terror, as if they had seen the most terrifying thing in their lives. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Instantly, blood gushed out from the sky along with anguished wails. It gathered into a long snake-like stream in the sky. Then, it dripped down, turning into a dense curtain of rain. Hundreds of terrifying ancient Blood Clan members were instantly killed at this moment. So powerful. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with shock as he looked at the rain of blood in the sky and the hundreds of ancient Blood Clan members who had died. Hundreds of ancient Blood Clan members who were at least at the ultimate four-wheel Emperor realm had all died in an instant. What kind of strength did this require? The blood spear cut through the void and tore apart the curtain of rain. It stood silently in the sky like a huge rainbow bridge that stretched across the horizon. A figure stood quietly on the blood spear with his hands behind his back. His robes fluttered in the wind, and he looked very imposing. However, when Zhuowen saw this person's face clearly, he was stunned. This person's clothes were ragged, his hair was disheveled, his face was greasy and dirty, and he looked like a beggar. Such an image, with his hands behind his back, his head held high, and his chest puffed out. He put on the image of an expert, and it looked rather out of place. However, what shocked Zhuowen was that this person's aura was as vast as the sea and as deep as the abyss. He could not see through it at all. He knew that this person's cultivation far surpassed his. Moreover, he could faintly sense that this person's aura was much stronger than the strongest person in Muqin County, Lunantian. Zhuowen could not help but feel indescribably shocked by this discovery. Kid, wasn't that move cool? The man on the blood spear seemed to be still trying to create the image of an expert. At this moment, he was looking straight ahead. His gaze was blurred, his chin was raised high, and the corners of his mouth were slightly pursed. He looked like he was the most powerful person in the world. However, his sloppy appearance was extremely strange no matter how one looked at it. However, Zhuowen almost burst out laughing. However, on the surface, he still cooperated and said, "Cool. Senior is really too cool." This person's strength was so strong. Moreover, he had clearly acted to save him. Zhuowen had a good impression of this greasy man. At this moment, he took the opportunity to cooperate. At the same time, he flattered him a little. However, in his heart, he was cursing endlessly. Haha. I like honest juniors like you the most. This old man did not save you for nothing. What an honest child. The man on the blood spear looked up to the sky and laughed. His laughter was extremely exaggerated. It seemed that if he did not laugh so loudly, he would not be able to display his aura. With a stomp of his foot, he drove the blood spear in front of Zhuowen. Only then did Zhuowen clearly see this person's true appearance. Although he had greasy hair and a dirty face, and his appearance was sloppy, he had a straight nose, spirited eyes, and sword-like eyebrows. He knew that if this person took care of himself well, he would definitely be a handsome man. Moreover, Zhuowen also noticed that this sloppy man's facial features were somewhat similar to Lunantian's. Zhuowen's eyes flashed. He knew that this sloppy man in front of him was very likely the former #1 prodigy, Lu Hantian. "Senior, thank you for saving my life this time. I am Zhuowen." When the sloppy man came closer, Zhuowen hurriedly cupped his hands respectfully. "Oh, so your name is Zhuowen. This core area is not a place you can casually barge into. You are so weak, but you were able to reach this area. I'm afraid you have many trump cards on you. The sloppy man looked Zhuo Wen up and down. When he discovered that Zhuo Wen was merely an ultimate three-wheel emperor, he couldn't help but reveal a look of astonishment. He clearly couldn't understand how someone as weak as Zhuo Wen had managed to make it to the core zone. Zhuo Wen did not respond to the sloppy man's words. He had many secrets, so he naturally would not reveal them so easily. Instead, he changed the topic. Senior, you must be the former #1 prodigy of Muqin County, Lu Hantian, right? After entering the Blood Demon's legacy, I heard from an ancient Blood Clan member that you were still alive. Lu Hantian? If you are talking about Lu Hantian, who is handsome and charming, who is loved by everyone, who makes flowers bloom when they see him, who makes girls blush when they see him, and who makes boys feel inferior when they see him, then I am here. When he said that, the sloppy man patted his chest. His face was filled with narcissism, and the corners of his mouth curled into what he thought was an extremely elegant smile, revealing a row of neat teeth. That should be you. Zhuo Wen's face darkened when he saw the sloppy man's narcissistic expression. He felt like thousands of horses were galloping through his heart. Lu Hantian was extremely famous in Muqin County. He was basically a legend to many young geniuses. It was said that Lu Hantian was the only prodigy who had the qualifications to challenge the top 10 on the Azure Emperor rankings. However, he died after choosing the Blood Demon's legacy, which made many prodigies feel rather regretful. Now that Zhuo Wen had met such a prodigy who was revered by countless people, he discovered that this guy was actually a narcissist. This left Zhuo Wen extremely speechless. Although he cursed Lu Hantian's narcissism in his heart, Zhuo Wen was rather impressed by the former's strength. This Lu Hantian was indeed a prodigy. Even in this barren core area, his strength did not decrease. Instead, it increased. He was much stronger than Lu Nantian of the House of Marquis Qin. This was the first time that Zhuo Wen had seen Lu Hantian in person. Actually, he still had many questions about him. Why did Lu Hantian insist on choosing the Blood Demon's legacy back then? It was rumored that Lu Hantian had escaped from the Blood Demon's legacy and brought out a portion of the legacy. However, he died due to his heavy injuries. Obviously, this rumor was completely false. However, there were still many people who believed it. Lu Nantian had also tacitly agreed to this rumor. So why did Lu Nantian do this? Zhuo Wen was certain that Lu Nantian must know that Lu Hantian was still in the Blood Demon's legacy. However, why didn't he think of a way to save such a prodigy? Could it be that there was some taboo? Boom, boom, boom. Just as Zhuo Wen was letting his imagination run wild, the entire island suddenly trembled. The blood qi above the island boiled and swirled, forming a funnel shape. It constantly condensed and turned into a huge human face that was several thousand feet tall. Lu Hantian, your guts are really getting bigger and bigger. You actually dared to attack this demon's blood clan when this demon was asleep. You're courting death. A majestic voice constantly reverberated between heaven and earth. The ring-shaped sound wave passed through the void and collapsed space, directly blasting towards Lu Hantian and Zhuo Wen. Poochie. Zhuo Wen violently spat out a mouthful of blood. He couldn't help but cover his ears with both hands. This sound wave was too powerful. Zhuo Wen had only just come into contact with it, but he had already suffered heavy injuries. Lu Hantian frowned slightly. He waved his sleeve and a powerful energy enveloped Zhuo Wen, blocking the blood demon's sound wave. His eyes were filled with fear. Blood demon, even if your might was monstrous in the ancient era and your strength was only second to the sage realm, you're just a soul now. It won't be that easy for you to deal with me. However, I have a guest today, so I won't tangle with you. We'll fight another day. As he spoke, Lu Hantian directly lifted Zhuo Wen up as if he was lifting up a little chick. He stomped his foot and the huge blood spear beneath his feet shot out, burrowing back into the ground and disappearing. In the sky, the huge human face didn't make a move. Over the past 100 years, it had fought Lu Hantian too many times. Although its strength completely suppressed Lu Hantian, this Lu Hantian was also a heaven-gifted genius. Moreover, His ability to escape was also top-notch. Therefore, even if it made a move, it wouldn't be able to stop this Lu Hantian. Another human martial artist came in. That human's aura is too weak. How did he come in? Chapter 565. Talking freely hundreds of meters underground, there was an extremely large space. A stone table, 2 stone stools, and a stone bed were the only decorations in this huge space. Little guy, how did you reach the core area of the blood demon inheritance? With your strength, I'm afraid it will be very difficult for you to pass the 18 stages of the blood demon inheritance, right? On the stone stools, Lu Hantian and Zhuoan sat opposite each other. Lu Hantian's somewhat sloppy face revealed a rare trace of seriousness. I wonder if Senior has heard of the blood demon token? Zhuoan's eyes flickered as he asked. Oh, so it's the blood demon token. No wonder you can reach the core area. It's because of the power of the blood demon token. However, entering the blood demon inheritance was a wrong choice. This is a place of trouble. It's easy to enter, but it's as difficult as ascending to the heavens to leave. You might even lose your life. After hearing about the blood demon token, Lu Hantian's face revealed a relieved expression. Clearly, he had heard of the use of the blood demon token. However, he felt pity for Zhuoan. After entering the blood demon inheritance, it would be difficult for him to escape for the rest of his life. Senior, you've been here for almost 100 years. Have you not found a way to escape? Zhuoan frowned and could not help but ask. Lu Hantian smiled bitterly and shook his head. He said, for 100 years, I've been trying to find a way to escape. Unfortunately, it's useless. The only way now is to destroy the slumbering soul of the blood demon. Once the blood demon dies, this space will collapse on its own. Unfortunately, although the blood demon only has a strand of soul left, it's impossible to destroy it without reaching the Emperor Realm. Must I reach the Emperor Realm to destroy the soul of the blood demon? Is there no other way? Hearing this, Zhuoan's heart thumped. It was not so easy to reach the Sovereign Realm. One should know that the Qing Xian Empire was vast, but the Qing Emperor was the only one who had reached the Sovereign Realm. It could be seen how difficult it was to reach the Sovereign Realm. If there's another way, it would be to have the demon-suppressing green coffin left behind by an ancient senior on the peak of Zhongling Mountain. This demon-suppressing green coffin is extremely effective against evil demons like the blood demon. If I have the demon-suppressing green coffin, I can kill the blood demon's soul. However, it's a pity that I didn't manage to cross the final step of Zhongling Mountain. There was no pressure on that final step, and it was a real illusion. I was too young back then, and there was a hole in my heart. Unfortunately, I failed. What a pity. When he spoke up to hear, Lu Hantian couldn't help but shake his head in regret. Obviously, he felt extremely helpless and regretful for not being able to ascend to the peak of Zhongling Mountain all those years ago. Hearing the words real illusion, Zhuoan couldn't help but think highly of the Lu Hantian in front of him. No wonder this person was called the peerless genius of Muqin County that appeared once in 100 years. He was actually able to sense that the final step of Zhongling Mountain was a real illusion. Unfortunately, this kind of genius didn't have such a strong heart back then. In the end, he failed at the last step. Senior, perhaps I have a way to help you defeat the blood demon's soul. After pondering for a moment, Zhuoan finally decided to take a gamble. He knew that the demon-suppressing green coffin that Lu Hantian mentioned should be the bronze coffin on his body. He was too weak, and even if he had the demon-suppressing green coffin, it was impossible for him to be a match for the blood demon's soul. However, the Lu Hantian in front of him was different. Although this person's strength was not as strong as the blood demon's soul, the blood demon's soul was unable to do anything to this person for 100 years. From this, it could be seen how strong Lu Hantian was. Therefore, if he wanted to escape from this place, he could only rely on Lu Hantian. Lu Hantian shook his head and said, "Little fellow, you can't speak carelessly like this. Even I haven't found a way to defeat the blood demon's soul. How can a little fellow like you who stinks of milk do it?" Boom. Zhuoan didn't reply. He patted his Chenkuan bag and a strand of green light flashed. A bronze coffin that was around 3 meters in size suddenly smashed onto the ground, causing the ground to crack and gravel to float up. Demon suppressing. Green coffin. Originally, Lu Hantian's face was filled with an indifferent expression, but at this moment, when his gaze converged on the bronze coffin that suddenly appeared, he was completely stunned, as if he had seen a ghost. Why do you have this demon-suppressing green coffin on you? Lu Hantian was still in disbelief as he stared fixedly at the bronze coffin and muttered, "I've climbed to the peak of Zhongling Mountain before." Zhuowen's expression was extremely calm as he softly said. Lu Hantian's body trembled as he stared at Zhuowen with a complicated gaze and said, "No wonder you dared to come to the blood demon inheritance. So it turns out that you've climbed to the peak of Zhongling Mountain before. Your talent and potential far surpasses mine. It's true that there are talented people in every generation, and the new generation excels the old. Senior is too modest. Junior's current strength is simply insignificant. If I want to leave this place, I will have to rely on Senior." Zhuowen cupped his hands in a rather humble manner. The reason he took out the demon-suppressing green coffin was also a gamble. He was betting on Lu Hantian's character. If this Lu Hantian had evil intentions because of this bronze coffin, he could only admit that he was unlucky. Fortunately, this Lu Hantian wasn't such a despicable person. Haha. Good, you're called Zhuowen, right? This demon-suppressing green coffin is a top-grade heaven-ranked spirit treasure. We haven't known each other for long, yet you dare to take out such a precious treasure. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you to silence you? Lu Hantian suddenly said with a smile. However, Zhuowen laughed and said, "Right now, the two of us are trapped in the core area, and the only way is to destroy the blood demon's soul. The demon-suppressing green coffin is indeed powerful, but this brat is too weak, so it's impossible for him to unleash the power of such a treasure. And Senior, you are such a handsome, elegant, lovable, and peerless handsome man. With this demon-suppressing green coffin, you have a very high chance of defeating the soul of the blood demon. I am only trying to save myself." Hearing this, Lu Hantian immediately laughed out loud and said, not bad. You brat, you know the big picture and your words are sweet. It's to my liking. Hee, from now on, you're my, Lu Hantian's, brother. If anyone dares to have any ideas about you, I'll kill them." At this moment, Lu Hantian's smile was extremely lewd and annoying. Furthermore, he casually placed his hand on Zhuowen's shoulder, his face full of enthusiasm. Seeing Lu Hantian's immoral performance, Zhuowen's head was filled with black lines, and he cursed in his heart. However, he could feel the excitement in Lu Hantian's heart. Obviously, he had been trapped here for too long, and now that Zhuowen had brought the demon-suppressing green coffin, it was like a timely rain to him. How could he not be happy? In the future, you don't have to call me Senior. Just call me Big Brother Hantian. We're brothers now, so there's no need to be so formal. Moreover, I, your big brother, am only borrowing your demon-suppressing green coffin for a while. After we escape from here, I'll return it to you." Suddenly, Lu Hantian's expression became serious as he said. Hearing this, Zhuowen couldn't help but be stunned. Originally, after taking out the demon-suppressing green coffin, he didn't plan to take it back from Lu Hantian. After all, Lu Hantian's strength was too strong. If he didn't give it to him, Zhuowen wouldn't be able to do anything to him. However, Lu Hantian just had to make a solemn promise to him. This caused Zhuowen to have a higher opinion of the sloppy man in front of him. If Big Brother feels that the demon-suppressing green coffin is useful, you can take it and use it. After all, Little Brother's strength is weak, and I'm simply unable to unleash the full power of the demon-suppressing green coffin. I'm afraid. Zhuowen was somewhat hesitant. Don't be so wishy-washy. The demon-suppressing green coffin was obtained by you. As Big Brother, I naturally won't take Little Brother's things. Moreover, this core area contains the place where the soul of the blood demon is sleeping. There are many treasures inside. If we really destroy the soul of the blood demon, the treasures inside will be enough for the two of us to split. There's no need to be so wishy-washy. Lu Hantian shook his head and said with some displeasure. Seeing Lu Hantian so insistent, Zhuowen could only silently nod his head. However, he felt a warm current in his heart. Big brother, with this bronze coffin, how confident are you in defeating the soul of the blood demon? Zhuowen suddenly asked. Hearing this, Lu Hantian became serious and said, it should be 60%. The soul of the blood demon is most afraid of the demon-suppressing green coffin. With such a treasure, the blood demon won't be able to unleash much of its strength. However, Zhuowen frowned. Even with the demon-suppressing green coffin, Lu Hantian only had 60% confidence. It seemed that the soul of the blood demon was indeed terrifying. Zhuowen, I need a period of time to refine the demon-suppressing green coffin. During this period of time, you should cultivate and meditate in my cave. I see that you are also a good spear user. That rock wall is your big brother's training room. There are many things that I have left behind. You can take a look. Maybe it will be of some help to you. Also, it's best that you don't leave this cave. Right now, you are too weak. If you are discovered by the soul of the blood demon, you will definitely die. Remember this. After solemnly instructing him, Lu Hantian took the demon-suppressing green coffin and directly entered a cave in the cave. He prepared to silently refine the demon-suppressing green coffin. At this moment, it involved the soul of the blood demon, so he naturally had no choice but to pay attention to it. Zhuowen did not plan to disturb Lu Hantian. Instead, he looked around the cave. This cave was indeed very simple and crude. Other than the daily necessities, there were no extra decorations. It was just like the life of a caveman. After walking around, Zhuowen finally arrived at Lu Hantian's training room. However, just as he stepped into the door of the training room, a sharp cold light shot out. Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He quickly took out his bone spear and placed it in front of his chest to block the cold light. Deng deng deng. Retreating more than 10 steps, Zhuowen groaned. The blood and qi in his body boiled. He looked at the entrance of the training room in shock. Could it be that there is someone else in the training room? His expression became serious. Zhuowen was somewhat unwilling to admit defeat. He took a step and once again arrived at the entrance of the training room. Suddenly, an even sharper cold light shot out from the room. At this moment, Zhuowen was already prepared. The bone spear in his hand trembled. Countless spear shadows erupted, directly and accurately blocking the sudden cold light. Clang clang clang. The sound of metal clashing continuously resounded in the cave, and sparks flew everywhere. Break for me. Chapter 566. Luring the snake out of its hole, there was not a single person in the large training room. The cold light that flashed out was actually emitted from the spear marks on the walls of the room. Obviously, these spear marks were left behind by Lu Hantian when he was practicing his spear. Just the spear marks alone had such terrifying power. It was really hard to tell how strong Lu Hantian was. On the walls of the room, other than the dense spear marks, Zhuowen saw lines of dense handwriting in the corner of the room. Looking carefully, these handwriting were actually the experiences of Lu Hantian when he was practicing his spear. Lu Hantian is a genius. The experiences of these walls are extremely important to you. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly sounded. Nodding his head, Zhuowen carefully looked at the dense handwriting on the wall. The contents were extremely obscure and difficult to understand. Furthermore, he discovered that there was an unfamiliar term spear intent mentioned in between the lines. With a toss of the dragon, the universe is broken. With a single spear, the borders of the country are destroyed. With 100 generations of soldiers under the heavens, the path of cold condensation is a pit for 10,000 people. The spear intent, the soul of the spear, is the way of the overlord, the way of the arrogant and unrestrained. There is no me in this world. If others laugh at me, I laugh at others. This is the spear intent. Zhuowen's eyes revealed a look of comprehension as he carefully studied the contents of the words on the barrier. The bone spear in his hand could not help but dance like a swimming dragon, like a long python, like a waterfall, like a rainbow bridge. In an instant, the entire training room was filled with Zhuowen's figure. Zhuowen's dance became faster and faster, more and more intense. The power of his spear actually faintly caused the space to tremble and show signs of collapse. Countless streams of air surrounded him as his aura surged. Clang! Suddenly, Zhuowen's spear swung out. As if it had pierced through space, a clear sound of the spear rang out. It was distant and misty. The surrounding space actually collapsed, revealing a sinister vortex of black holes. Spear intent, what is it? Withdrawing his spear, Zhuowen's gaze turned blurry. Soon after, he silently sat down in a cross-legged position. The words within the training room had caused Zhuowen to be greatly moved and enlightened. At the same time, for some unknown reason, he actually had an extremely strong desire for the spear aura in his heart for the first time. Mysteries within mysteries, the great Tao is the simplest. Time passed day by day, and in the blink of an eye, more than half a month had passed. During this half a month, Zhuowen basically sat cross-legged in the cultivation room. Occasionally, he would frown, and occasionally, he would wave his bone spear, dancing gracefully as the spear shot out like a dragon. Living beings have souls. If the spear in my hand also has a soul, what would it be like? The soul of the spear, the intent of the spear. In the training room, Zhuowen slowly stood up and shook the long spear in his right hand. Instantly, countless spear shadows spread out in all directions like countless hidden weapons. Instantly, there were many more spear marks on the surrounding walls. Clang, clang, clang. After all, there was a trace of Lu Hantian's spear intent left on the surrounding walls. When Zhuowen secretly left spear marks on the walls, a cold light suddenly flew out from the surface of the walls, densely enveloping Zhuowen. If the spear has a soul, then it is called spear intent. When the spear is filled with life, then the spear has a soul and a concept. This is called spear intent. As Zhuowen muttered to himself, the bone spear in his right hand pierced out in a seemingly slow manner. Instantly, a dense amount of spear lights erupted. The countless spear lights were like living snakes, accurately resisting the cold light shooting out from all directions. Clang, clang, clang. Countless sparks flew. In the midst of the sparks, Zhuowen lifted his feet and slowly walked out of the training room door, spotless. The moment he finally stepped on the door, the sound of metal clashing in the room gradually faded away. Instead, there were many more terrifying and deep spear marks on the surrounding walls. These new spear marks were even colder than Lu Hantian's spear marks. What a terrifying brat! It has only been half a month, and in my training room, you have already grasped the basics of spear intent. No wonder you were able to reach the peak of Zhongling Mountain. Your potential and comprehension are equally abnormal. Outside the training room, the shabbily dressed Lu Hantian carried the huge demon-suppressing green coffin on his back. He looked at the figure walking out of the training room with a complicated gaze. In just half a month, the youth in front of him had already grasped the basics of spear intent. Such a result made him have the impulse to kill himself. Big brother Hantian, have you finished refining the demon-suppressing green coffin? Zhuowen did not care about Lu Hantian's strange gaze. Instead, he asked with an excited smile. The spear marks in Lu Hantian's training room were of great help to him. In half a month, he had already grasped the basics of spear intent. If Zhuowen did not guess incorrectly, spear intent should be divided into three major realms: elementary, advanced, and great heights. Currently, he was at the elementary level. Although his strength had not increased significantly, his understanding and use of the spear had already reached the acme of perfection. A martial artist who had grasped the concept of spear intent would be able to mobilize the power of heaven and earth with every move. It could greatly increase their strength and power. Under the same level, they would be invincible. If Zhuowen were to face Ju Kai at this time, he would not need to use his trump card. He could use spear intent to defeat Ju Kai with a single spear strike. This was the benefit that spear intent brought to Zhuowen. Lu Hantian nodded his head. His face revealed a trace of a smile as he said, "Fortunately, I did not disappoint you. Now, I have basically grasped the power of the demon-suppressing green coffin. If I were to face the soul of the blood demon this time, I can be sure that I have at least a 60% chance of killing it." Hearing Lu Hantian say this, Zhuowen's face also revealed a moved expression. The battle with the soul of the blood demon was very crucial. He did not want Lu Hantian to fail. Big brother Hantian, help me guard. I can feel that my fourth heavenly tribulation is about to arrive. I'm afraid that this place will soon be discovered by the soul of the blood demon. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he suddenly said, "You want to cross the fourth heavenly tribulation?" Hearing this, Lu Hantian could not help but be startled. The cave he opened was extremely hidden. It was one of the few core areas that the soul of the blood demon could not explore. It was because of this cave that although Lu Hantian's strength was not as strong as the soul of the blood demon, he could often escape from its pursuit. All right. You can cross the tribulation and draw out the soul of the blood demon. This time, it's time for you to understand everything with the soul of the blood demon. However, you have to be careful. Lu Hantian nodded his head. Big brother Hantian, you can rest assured. I will do my best to be careful. When crossing the tribulation, the soul of the blood demon will not dare to attack me while I'm crossing the tribulation. The one who should be careful is you. Nodding his head, Zhuowen looked at Lu Hantian with worry. He was very clear that Lu Hantian was about to confront the soul of the blood demon. Zhuowen had already experienced the strength of the soul of the blood demon, so he was naturally worried about Lu Hantian. Haha. Don't worry. With the demon suppressing green coffin in hand, your big brother won't die. Hurry up and cross the tribulation. I can't wait to have a showdown with the soul of the blood demon. Lu Hantian laughed heartily. Shaking his head, Zhuowen didn't say anything. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and circulated the aura in his body. Instantly, his aura shot up like a rocket. The epiphany in the cultivation room not only allowed Zhuowen to grasp the basics of spear intent, it also allowed him to break through the bottleneck of the Ultimate Emperor realm and naturally reach the Ultimate Emperor realm. When Zhuozhangwen's aura soared to the level of an Ultimate Four-Wheel Emperor, the bloody qi in the air above the lone island suddenly surged and dispersed. Dark clouds that resembled black dragons continuously condensed. Occasionally, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled within the dark clouds. It was an exceptionally frightening sight. Tribulation of the heavens and earth. Below the isolated island, countless bloody auras condensed and turned into a huge human face. It was the soul of the blood demon. At this moment, the soul of the blood demon was looking up at the gathering dark clouds in the sky. Looks like the heavens are really helping me. That new human cultivator has actually broken through and crossed the tribulation at this time. Then, the location of Lu Hantian's cave will be completely exposed because of this heavenly tribulation. Haha, Lu Hantian, the game of cat and mouse is about to come to an end. At this point, the soul of the blood demon stared intently at the tribulation clouds in the sky. He knew that when the first heavenly tribulation descended, Lu Hantian's cave would be completely exposed. Boom! A bolt of lightning as thick as a bucket came crashing down from the 9 heavens with a loud boom. It streaked across the sky above the isolated island. Over there. Lu Hantian, you won't be able to escape today. After the cave is exposed, you have nowhere to hide. Be a good boy and accept your death. Haha. The moment the first bolt of lightning flashed, the soul of the blood demon laughed loudly. The huge human face turned back into a bloody cloud and shot towards the source of the lightning in the distance. This was a huge basin. Not a single blade of grass grew in the surroundings. It was desolate and uninhabited. With a boom, the huge bolt of lightning struck the center of the basin, forming a huge black hole. There was actually a completely different world below the hole. A young man sat there silently with his legs crossed. His entire body flickered with golden light. He waved his right hand and actually caught the terrifying bolt of lightning. With a squeeze of his hand, the bolt of lightning was obliterated into nothingness. Zhuowen, who possessed the battle prowess of an Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator, didn't care about 4 heavenly tribulations at all. To Zhuowen, a bolt of lightning of this level couldn't do any harm to him at all. A huge cloud of blood shot over and stopped above the basin. Then, a huge human face appeared. The blood demon stared at the young man in the black hole and laughed proudly. Lu Hantian, why haven't you come out yet? You probably didn't expect that the human you saved would expose your cave abode in the end because of the tribulation, right? Haha, without a cave, you won't be able to escape my pursuit no matter where you go. You're dead for sure. Boom. As soon as the blood demon finished speaking, a blood spear hundreds of meters long shot into the sky. It tore through the ground and shot into the sky with a whoosh. Chapter 567. Suppressing the blood demon. Lu Hantian's words were truly shocking. Zhuoan, who was below the black hole, was speechless. Such vulgar words, where was the demeanor of an expert? The blood demon seemed to be used to Lu Hantian's way of speaking. He wasn't angry at all. Instead, he said indifferently, Lu Hantian, for the past 100 years, you've been saying that you want to kill me. It's a pity that after so many years, you've been like a coward, hiding from place to place. If you have the ability, then come and kill me. PFFF. When the blood demon said that last sentence, Lu Hantian and Zhuoan both burst out laughing. The blood demon really didn't understand the ways of the world. He could actually say such words so calmly. You said it yourself. See if I don't kill you. After saying that, Lu Hantian stomped his foot and the huge blood spear under his feet made a buzzing sound. It pierced through the void and directly swept towards the blood demon in front of him. Insignificant skill. The blood demon coldly snorted. Countless streams of blood condensed and turned into a blood shadow that was several 100 feet tall. Its huge palm slammed down and directly blasted the blood spear away. Then, it stomped its foot and rushed towards Lu Hantian. At this moment, Lu Hantian's expression became more and more serious. For the past 100 years, he had fought the blood demon no less than 100 times. Every time, he was at an absolute disadvantage. Therefore, he couldn't be careless at this moment. Lu Hantian was like a red-crowned crane soaring through the 9 heavens. He instantly dodged the blood demon's attack and arrived on top of the blood spear. He stomped his foot again, and the huge blood spear instantly expanded to several zhong in length. With a toss of the dragon, the universe is broken. With a single spear, the borders of the country are destroyed. Ruthless and unparalleled in the world's 100 generations of soldiers, the path of cold condensation is a pit of 10,000 people. As he slowly recited the cryptic poem, Lu Hantian's aura became extremely terrifying. His messy hair and clothes fluttered in the wind. The surrounding air rose like an inverted waterfall, stirring up thousands of flowers. He was like a god or a demon, vast and boundless. Spear intent. Far surpassing elementary spear intent, I'm afraid that Big Brother Hantian's spear intent has already reached the advanced intermediate level. Looking at Lu Hantian's imposing spear, Zhuoan could not help but feel his blood boil. At this moment, the spear intent that Lu Hantian had displayed far surpassed the elementary spear intent that Zhuoan had just grasped. Every casual move was so strong that the spear intent could actually shatter space, raise the air, and reverse the airflow. The moment Lu Hantian unleashed his spear intent, the blood devil's gaze turned solemn. He crossed his hands and growled, blood slaughter in all directions. Rumble. An earth-shattering tremor spread out. It was unknown when, but below the island, 8 blood mountains rose from the ground and soared into the sky. Lu Hantian was directly surrounded by the 8 giant mountains. Blood demon. Blood slaughter in all directions can't trap me, watch me break it. Lu Hantian's gaze was extremely sharp. With a twist of his right hand, the blood spear fiercely pierced out. Instantly, with him as the center, the space within a radius of a few hundred li collapsed, and the laws became chaotic. This spear had a soul, and it was called spear intent. This was the power of spear intent. Even if it was just a casual spear, it possessed a terrifying might. Rumble. The 8 blood mountains, along with the surrounding space, collapsed one after another. A figure swept out. Lu Hantian's long hair fluttered in the wind. With a spear in his hand, he looked like a dragon or a tiger. Your spear intent has improved again. I really didn't expect that a mere 4th revered realm like you could actually rely on spear intent to reach such a level. Your perception and talent is really admirable. Unfortunately, you must die. Blood slaughter in all directions was broken, but the blood devil was still as calm as an ancient well. Looking at Lu Hantian, his gaze was filled with a trace of mockery. He opened his palm, and the surrounding blood chi surged out violently. Phaseless 7 battles absolute kill formation. Lu Hantian, this is the first time in 100 years that you've forced me to use this move. Therefore, you can die in peace. I won't waste your blood essence, hey. The blood devil's sinister voice filled the heavens and earth. Soon after, countless blood chi in the air above the lone island formed an inverted funnel, hanging in front of the blood devil. They turned into 700 of feet wide blood-red spheres. 7 terrifying auras swept out, wreaking havoc and terror like overturning rivers and seas. Phaseless 7 battles absolute kill formation. The 7 blood-red spheres surrounded Lu Hantian in the center. Countless blood-red chains were formed on the surface of the spheres, and the blood chi was oppressive. Clang, clang, clang. The blood-red chains swept out and covered Lu Hantian with tacit understanding, forcibly turning into a blood-red cage. Lu Hantian looked at the blood-red chains with a grave expression. He coldly snorted and said, "Blood devil. Even the phaseless 7 battles absolute kill formation can't stop me. Break for me." As he spoke, Lu Hantian's long spear swept out, and an even more profound concept leaked out from the tip of the spear. This was a domineering aura, as if he was the sole ruler of the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Boom, 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 boom. The spear shadows that filled the sky turned into a terrifying hurricane, spreading out in all directions. At this moment, the spear in Lu Hantian's hand seemed to have a life of its own, and endless spear shadows swept out. Even if Lu Hantian didn't control it, the blood spear actually moved on its own, and its might reached an extreme. Catcher. The instant this profound concept appeared, the blood-red cage instantly shattered, and countless chains flew out. Following that, the 7 blood-red spheres exploded one after another, and a figure swept out. It was Lu Hantian. What a powerful spear intent. This Lu Hantian's spear intent is even more terrifying than before. Could it be that it has already reached the highest level, the peak of perfection? When the phaseless 7 battles absolute kill formation finally broke, the blood devil's expression finally changed. Lu Hantian's current strength had somewhat exceeded its imagination. It even suspected that Lu Hantian had been hiding his strength when they fought before, and now it was all revealed. Die, blood devil. A roar like the morning bell and evening drum resounded between heaven and earth. Lu Hantian wielded his spear like an arrow, and instantly arrived in front of the blood devil. He waved the blood spear in his hand, and a terrifying concept exploded out, almost distorting the space between the two, and countless black holes appeared. Clang. However, when Lu Hantian's blood spear finally pierced the blood devil's body, the sound of metal clashing slowly reverberated between heaven and earth. The blood spear actually didn't leave a single mark on the blood devil's body. Ha ha. Lu Hantian, don't you know? I am an ancient blood devil. Although my physical body was once destroyed, even if this is a temporary true body, it's still not something that you can shake. Even if your spear intent has reached the peak of perfection, it's still impossible, because you're still not an Emperor Realm expert. The blood devil laughed heartily, and a mountain-like palm descended from the sky, directly smashing onto Lu Hantian's head. Lu Hantian wasn't afraid, and the spear in his hand trembled. Spear intent erupted, and the power of heaven and earth turned into tortoise shells that surrounded his body. Deng deng deng. When the two collided, Lu Hantian was repeatedly pushed back in the air. He groaned, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Below, Zhuoan had already passed 4 rounds of the tribulation of heaven and earth. When he saw Lu Hantian being pushed back, he couldn't help but reveal a worried expression. Why isn't Big Brother Hantian using the demon-suppressing green coffin? Could it be? Staring at Lu Hantian, who was continuously retreating, Zhuoan revealed a thoughtful expression. What's wrong? Lu Hantian, weren't you very arrogant just now? Why aren't you clamoring now? Or have you already given up? The blood devil stomped his foot, and his attacks were like a storm, pouring down towards Lu Hantian. With his terrifying physical body, the blood devil wasn't afraid of Lu Hantian's attacks at all, because in his opinion, Lu Hantian wouldn't be able to break through his physical body no matter what. Boom! With another palm strike, Lu Hantian was sent flying like a rubber ball. He spat out a mouthful of blood and barely managed to stop himself 100 meters away. However, his eyes were full of vigor. At this moment, the blood devil no longer placed Lu Hantian in his eyes. There was no suspense in the battle between them. If Lu Hantian's cave dwelling hadn't been exposed, Lu Hantian might have been able to escape. Unfortunately, Lu Hantian's cave dwelling had been exposed. Even if he wanted to escape, where could he escape? This entire island was under the blood devil's surveillance. As long as he couldn't leave this island, Lu Hantian wouldn't be able to escape. Only death awaited him. I'm done playing. Lu Hantian, you can die now. A trace of impatience appeared on the blood devil's face. He suddenly threw out a huge palm, preparing to annihilate Lu Hantian in one fell swoop. Facing the huge palm that was getting closer and closer, the light in Lu Hantian's eyes became more and more intense, and the corner of his mouth actually revealed a trace of a brilliant smile. Blood devil. The one who will die won't be me, but you. After muttering those words, Lu Hantian's expression was extremely calm. He slapped his right palm behind his back, and a monstrous green light filled the sky. A bronze coffin flew out from Lu Hantian's back and floated above the blood Magatama's head. Then, the bronze coffin expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye, until it was several thousand feet tall. It was several times larger than the blood devil's body. Bang! A soft sound rang out, and the lid of the bronze coffin slowly opened. An earth-shaking aura overflowed, and the bronze coffin flipped over, directly enveloping the blood devil. What? This is the demon-suppressing green coffin. Ah, damned Lu Hantian, so you didn't resist before because you were waiting for this opportunity. You cunning human, damned human. A trace of fear finally appeared in the blood devil's eyes. Endless green light wrapped around the blood devil's body, and actually pulled him into the coffin. No. No. Lu Hantian, let this lord go. This lord agrees to let you out, and give you the inheritance this lord left behind. I only beg you to let me go. At this moment, half of the blood devil's body was already in the bronze coffin. The blood devil repeatedly begged Lu Hantian for mercy. After successfully summoning the demon-suppressing green coffin, Lu Hantian's nature was exposed, and he started to show off. Calling me Lord Lu, don't you think it's too impolite? Lord Lu, I'll kowtow to you. As long as you let me go, I'll promise you anything. The blood devil seemed to have seen hope, and he continued to kowtow and beg for mercy. Lu Hantian picked his ear and laughed mischievously. This lord will accept your inheritance. As for you, it's better for you to stay in the demon-suppressing green coffin. The blood devil's expression froze, and he angrily shouted, Lu Hantian, you damned bastard. I should have killed you earlier, you scourge. The blood devil's voice became softer and softer, until there was no more life. Bang. Chapter 568. Aura concealing divine Jadalu Hantian grinned and waved his right hand. In the air, the demon-suppressing green coffin gradually shrunk to the size of a few feet. With a swoosh, it was held in Lu Hantian's hand. Blood demon, you should obediently stay in this demon-suppressing green coffin. Hee, but you can rest assured that we will not let go of your nest. We will definitely clean it up. Patting the demon-suppressing green coffin's lid, Lu Hantian laughed extremely lasciviously. Buzz buzz. The demon-suppressing green coffin violently trembled. The blood demon inside had clearly heard Lu Hantian's words and faintly let out an unwilling roar. However, the demon-suppressing green coffin was an item that specialized in restraining evil spirits. No matter how the blood demon struggled, it was unable to escape. Under the blood basin, after seeing the blood demon being sealed by the demon-suppressing green coffin, Zhuowen's face revealed a joyous expression. He knew that once the blood demon died, this space would no longer be able to trap him and Lu Hantian. Zhuowen, wasn't your big brother handsome just now? The blood demon was killed by your big brother in a few moves. It seems that being too strong is not a good thing. Sometimes, life is just so lonely like snow. A sloppy figure descended from the sky and appeared in front of Zhuowen. Lu Hantian's right hand stopped, and the demon-suppressing green coffin suddenly sat on the ground. Soon after, Lu Hantian struck a pose and sighed like a lonely expert. Looking at Lu Hantian's appearance, Zhuowen's head was filled with black lines. He was originally worried about this guy's injuries, but now it seemed that he was overthinking. Take it. The demon-suppressing green coffin is very beneficial to you. Take it with you. Lu Hantian patted his right hand, and the demon-suppressing green coffin immediately landed in front of Zhuowen. Looking at the demon-suppressing green coffin in front of him, Zhuowen stared and hesitated. Don't be so sentimental. If it wasn't for you, your big brother wouldn't have been able to seal the blood demon, and if the blood demon couldn't be destroyed, I'm afraid your big brother would have to live in this core area for the rest of his life. Speaking of which, it was you who saved me. Lu Hantian waved his hand. When he saw Zhuowen's hesitation, his face was filled with displeasure. Then I'll have to thank big brother Hantian. Zhuowen was not an indecisive person. Since Lu Hantian insisted on giving up the demon-suppressing green coffin, Zhuowen naturally would not reject such a good thing. Looking at the devil-suppressing green coffin in front of him, Zhuowen was shocked to discover that the green coffin had changed greatly. Previously, the surface of the green coffin was bronze, but now, there were actually blood-red veins extending from the green coffin, as if they were blood vessels in the human body. This is the phenomenon of the blood demon's power resisting the devil-suppressing green coffin. As if he had sensed Zhuowen's astonishment, Lu Hantian said with a faint smile. So that's how it is. However, that blood demon is so powerful, is it possible for it to escape from the devil-suppressing green coffin? After feeling the power of the blood demon, Zhuowen said worriedly. Lu Hantian smiled and shook his head. Don't worry, the devil-suppressing green coffin is a spirit treasure that can restrain evil spirits like the blood demon. If it was the blood demon at its peak, it would be difficult for the green coffin to suppress it, but the blood demon's body is broken, and only this strand of soul is left, so it doesn't have the strength to escape from the devil-suppressing green coffin. Hearing that, Zhuowen nodded his head, and immediately extended his right hand. Just as he was about to keep the devil-suppressing green coffin into his universe bag, he suddenly froze, and a strange expression appeared on his face. This was because he discovered that in the instant he came into contact with the devil-suppressing green coffin, waves of surging energy flowed from the surface of the green coffin along his arm and entered his body. Moreover, this energy was actually constantly strengthening the world energy in his dantian. This energy, Zhuowen said with a face full of pleasant surprise. Haha. Do you feel it? This energy is the blood demon's energy. To be more precise, it is the energy absorbed by the devil-suppressing green coffin when refining the blood demon. This energy is extremely beneficial to an ultimate Emperor realm cultivator like you. Moreover, the blood demon's energy is extremely vast. Even if the devil-suppressing green coffin wants to completely refine the blood demon, it will probably take 3 years. During these 3 years, the blood demon's energy can be completely converted into the world energy in your dantian. This energy from the blood demon is enough for you to cultivate to the 4th stage of the exalted realm. Lu Hantian said with a smile as he stared at Zhuowen. After absorbing the blood demon, the devil-suppressing green coffin had actually become an extremely rich energy source. This energy source could be continuously replenished for Zhuowen's cultivation and battle. To Zhuowen, this was a great fortune. Thank you, big brother Hantian. Zhuowen cupped his hands gratefully towards Lu Hantian. This kind of fortune was probably something that even a 4th stage expert would be envious of, but Lu Hantian gave it to him without any hesitation. From this, it could be seen that Lu Hantian really did treat him as a brother. It's a small matter. Also, this devil-suppressing green coffin needs to be in contact with your body in order for the energy inside to be continuously transmitted into your body. I suggest that you carry it on your back. Lu Hantian said solemnly as he waved his hand. Hearing this, Zhuowen was indeed a little hesitant. Lu Hantian's suggestion was indeed good, but the devil-suppressing green coffin was a heaven-rank spirit treasure after all. The aura it emitted was very easy for others to recognize it. At that time, it would probably arouse the greed of others. I know what you're worried about. This is an aura concealing divine jade, a special treasure used to conceal the aura of spirit treasures. If you hang this aura-concealing divine jade on your body, you can completely conceal the aura of the devil-suppressing green coffin. With that, Lu Hantian flicked his finger, and a black jade pendant shot into Zhuowen's palm. Then, Zhuowen felt that the aura of the devil-suppressing green coffin was completely absorbed by the aura-concealing divine jade. Now, it seemed that the devil-suppressing green coffin was no different from an ordinary coffin. Good stuff. Feeling the weak aura of the devil-suppressing green coffin, Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a light. With a pat of his right hand, he directly carried the devil-suppressing green coffin on his back. Immediately, waves of surging energy passed through the meridians on his back and continuously poured into his body, causing Zhuowen to be so comfortable that he couldn't help but cry out. That's right. Big Brother Hantian, can you tell me the specific realm of the four venerables in detail? And what is your current strength? Suddenly, Zhuowen asked curiously. Lu Hantian raised his eyebrows. He did not expect Zhuowen to ask about the four venerables realm. After pondering for a while, he casually sat beside Zhuowen and said, "Then I'll tell you. With your talent, advancing to the four venerables realm should be something that happens sooner or later. The most important source of energy for a martial artist is the dantian in the lower abdomen. The dantian has endless possibilities, and before the four venerables realm, the dantian is oval-shaped. There is chaos inside, and most of the energy in your meridians is the energy in your meridians. If the dantian is compared to an egg, then before the four venerables realm, the dantian is in an unhatched state. But once your strength reaches the four venerables realm, the chaos in your dantian will give birth to a nascent soul. I call it breaking out of the cocoon and forming a nascent soul. If you can break out of the cocoon and form a nascent soul, then you will officially become a four venerables realm expert. However, at the beginning, the nascent soul will be extremely weak, equivalent to a human child, so you will need to constantly forge and nurture the nascent soul in your dantian. Furthermore, this nascent soul will be of great benefit to you. It can be said that this is your second life. If you die, as long as your nascent soul escapes, you will be able to reconstruct your body and revive. However, this process will take a very long time. After all, the nascent soul is an extremely fragile existence. If you are not careful, your soul will be destroyed. The four venerables realm is divided into four small realms. They are the mystic venerables, sovereign venerables, golden venerables, and heavenly venerables. Among them, the mystic venerables are the weakest, and the heavenly venerables are the strongest. And I am currently at the peak of the heavenly venerables realm. At this point, Lu Hantian's voice suddenly stopped. Instead, he stared at Zhuowen, who seemed to be deep in thought. Heavenly venerables? I really didn't expect you to have reached the heavenly venerables realm. Doesn't that mean you are extremely close to the emperor realm? Hearing that Lu Hantian was a heavenly venerables, Zhuowen's heart could not help but skip a beat. No wonder the blood demon was unable to kill Lu Hantian for 100 years. It turned out that Lu Hantian's strength was actually so powerful. He was probably not far from the emperor realm. It's not that simple. It's not that easy for a heavenly venerables to reach the emperor realm. In the Qing Xian Empire, there are many warriors who have reached the heavenly venerables realm. However, only Emperor Qing was able to reach the emperor realm. It's not that easy to advance to the emperor realm. Lu Hantian shook his head. Although he also yearned to reach the emperor realm, it was simply an unreachable dream. Although the peak of the heavenly venerables realm and the emperor realm were only one step away, breaking through was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Hearing this, Zhuowen also nodded in agreement. It was indeed extremely difficult to reach the emperor realm. Otherwise, in such a vast Qing Xian Empire, for hundreds of years, only Emperor Qing was able to claim the title of emperor. This already showed how difficult it was to reach the emperor realm. His gaze paused on Lu Hantian's face, a trace of hesitation appeared on Zhuowen's face. In fact, what he wanted to ask now was what happened in the last Vitality Tower battle. Why was there such a big contrast between the rumors and the Lu Hantian he saw now? Boy, looking at you, you should have something to say, right? Just say it. I, your big brother, will do my best to answer. Lu Hantian noticed Zhuowen's hesitation and said generously. Actually, what I want to ask is, what happened in the Vitality Tower battle? Rumor has it that you escaped from the Blood Demon's inheritance and died suddenly in the house of Marquis Qin. However, it seems that this rumor is obviously not true. What exactly happened in the past? After thinking over and over again, Zhuowen finally asked this question. Unexpectedly, Lu Hantian's face froze and instantly became gloomy. He sighed softly and said, "Don't mention this matter. It's already in the past. You will naturally know after we leave the Vitality Tower. It's not convenient for me to answer now." Seeing Lu Hantian's face change greatly, Zhuowen became more and more puzzled. However, he also knew that since Lu Hantian did not want to say more, he naturally did not need to ask more. Let's go. Let's go to the Blood Demon's lair. There should be a passage out of this space in his lair. Moreover, this Blood Demon has a lot of good things. When the time comes, we can split it half. Chapter 569. Blood Demon's lair. In the center of the island, there was a blood-colored desert that spanned thousands of miles. As the wind blew, the blood-colored sand filled the sky. Whoosh, whoosh. Two figures flew in the air and looked down at the vast blood-colored desert. This is the Blood Demon's lair. But looking at it now, there's nothing. Zhuowen frowned as he looked around at the desolate desert. Haha. The Blood Demon is much more cunning than us humans. How could they build their lair on the ground? I've been in contact with the Blood Demon for nearly 100 years. I've already deduced that the Blood Demon's lair is under the desert. Back then, we weren't a match for the Blood Demon, so we didn't enter the desert to investigate. But now that the Blood Demon has been sealed, we don't have to worry anymore. Look at how I'm going to break open this desert. Lu Hantian laughed as he stomped on the air. A blood spear that was hundreds of feet long instantly condensed under his feet. Go. With a stomp, the blood spear pierced through the air and smashed into the center of the desert. Instantly, sand and stones flew everywhere. The blood spear actually pierced a black hole that was hundreds of feet long. Let's go. Let's go in. After the black hole formed, Lu Hantian immediately led Zhuowen into the depths of the desert. The two of them advanced for half a day in the black hole. After diving for at least a few thousand feet, they finally reached the end. In the depths of the ground, there was a huge space. This space was filled with blood-colored roots. The strange thing was that these roots were like a pulse that constantly pulsed. In the middle of the space, a blood-colored round egg that was dozens of feet in size stood quietly. A strange heartbeat sound was continuously being emitted from the blood-colored round egg. Blood Demon's origin? I didn't expect the Blood Demon's origin to exist in the Blood Demon's lair. The reason why the Blood Demon spent so much effort to stay in the core area was to cultivate the Blood Demon's origin. When Lu Hantian's gaze focused on the blood-colored egg, he couldn't help but exclaim. Obviously, this egg had a great impact on him. Otherwise, he wouldn't reveal such an expression. Haha. Who would have thought that the Blood Demon's origin would exist in the Blood Demon's nest? Kid, you have to help me. If I can absorb this Blood Devil's origin, it will be enough to repair most of my spiritual body. The instant Lu Hantian cried out in surprise, Xiao Hei also cried out in Zhuowen's mind. Her voice was so loud that Zhuowen could not help but cover his ears with both hands. Zhuowen knew that for Lu Hantian and Xiao Hei to be so moved, this Blood Devil's origin was probably not simple. Don't worry. If this thing is useful to you, I will help you. Zhuowen nodded as he spoke to Xiao Hei in his heart. What exactly is this Blood Devil's origin? Xiao Hei also realized that she was too agitated. She calmed herself down and said, the so-called Blood Devil's origin is actually the core power of the Blood Devils. As long as this Blood Devil's origin still exists, the Blood Devils are immortal and indestructible. The Blood Devil that you sealed just now was probably just a powerful doppelganger of the Blood Devil. The real Blood Devil should be inside this egg. Just a doppelganger is that powerful. This Blood Devil is indeed terrifying. However, if the Blood Devil's real body is inside, won't we be in danger? Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he asked worriedly. Don't worry. Since this blood devil's origin is still in the form of an egg, it means that the blood devil's real body is still in a deep slumber. Moreover, it is still extremely weak. Only when it breaks out of the egg will the blood devil's real body become extremely terrifying. Xiao Hei shook her head. Hearing this, Zhuowen completely relaxed. According to Xiao Hei's words, there was no need to be afraid of the blood devil's origin now. The blood devil is indeed cunning. It actually left its origin in its nest. It really is an unkillable cockroach. Watch me destroy you. Lu Hantian obviously knew how powerful the blood devil's origin was. With a cold snort, a blood spear condensed in his hand. With a clang, it directly pierced towards the blood-colored egg in front of him. Zhuowen also did not expect Lu Hantian to suddenly make a move. He secretly cursed in his heart, but it was already too late to stop it. Boom! The blood spear smashed onto the egg, causing the space to collapse and the air to flow backwards. However, what surprised Zhuowen was that the blood-colored egg did not move at all. On the other hand, Lu Hantian continuously retreated. What a sturdy egg! Stopping his body, Lu Hantian's face was filled with shock and anger. On the other hand, Zhuowen lightly sighed. He knew that Xiao Hei had a way to deal with the blood devil's origin. If it was destroyed by Lu Hantian, Xiao Hei would probably be flustered and exasperated. Big brother Hantian. Let me try. Perhaps I can deal with this blood devil's origin. Zhuowen suddenly opened his mouth. Lu Hantian was taken aback. Soon after, he shook his head and said, It's not that I'm looking down on you. It's just that you're too weak. If even I can't break this egg, I'm afraid you won't be able to either. Won't you know once you try? Zhuowen faintly smiled. Soon after, he walked towards the blood devil's origin in the center. Lu Hantian shook his head. He naturally did not believe that Zhuowen could destroy the blood devil's origin. After all, he was a heavenly venerate powerhouse, while Zhuowen was merely an ultimate emperor realm cultivator. The difference between the two was too great. Zhuowen arrived in front of the blood-colored egg. He stretched out his right hand and pressed it against the egg's surface. At the same time, a faintly discernible inky black mist drilled into the egg from Zhuowen's palm. The black mist was naturally formed by Xiao Hei. 5 breaths of time passed, but the blood-colored egg did not move at all. Lu Hantian, who was observing from the side, shook his head. Just as he was about to speak, a clear and melodious sound slowly rang out. Crack. Following that, Lu Hantian's pupils shrank. He discovered that the blood-colored egg that was as hard as a rock had shattered just like that. Is there a mistake? I used all my strength and still couldn't break this blood devil's origin. This brat broke it with a light touch. What the hell is going on? After rubbing his eyes and confirming that what he saw was real, Lu Hantian could not help but swear to express the grief and indignation in his heart. The blood-colored egg shattered. There was nothing inside, but a wisp of undetectable black mist slowly rose and entered Zhuowen's body. Brat. Thank you very much for this time. This Lord Dragon needs some time to refine this blood devil's origin. Therefore, this Lord Dragon will not appear unless there is something important. Xiao Hei's voice rang out in his mind. However, at this moment, Xiao Hei's voice was filled with excitement. It was obvious that she had gained a lot from the blood-colored egg. Zhuowen nodded. He was happy for Xiao Hei in his heart. Along the way, Xiao Hei had done a lot for him. She had even used her own origin energy many times. Therefore, Zhuowen had always felt a little guilty towards Xiao Hei. Now that he was able to help Xiao Hei, Zhuowen felt extremely gratified in his heart. Zhuowen, how did you do it? Why did this blood-colored egg shatter when you touched it with your hand? This is too inconceivable. Lu Hantian stared at Zhuowen and said, I just touched it, and the egg broke. Actually, I don't know why either. Shrugging his shoulders, Zhuowen made up a lie without batting an eyelid. Lu Hantian did not dwell too much on the blood devil's origin. His original intention was to destroy the blood devil's origin. Since Zhuowen had already destroyed it, he naturally did not need to do anything unnecessary. This space was very large. The two of them began to conduct a carpet search. What surprised the two of them was that the amount of resources here far exceeded their imagination. Emperor tier armor skills, Earth tier spirit treasures, 5th grade spirit herbs, and other rare treasures that were rarely seen in the outside world could be found in this space. Even a powerhouse like Lu Hantian couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Haha. We're rich. These resources were probably obtained by the blood devil from the cultivators over the past 10,000 years and accumulated in this lair. I really did not expect there to be so many. Kid, we'll split it in half. Hurry up and take them. After saying that, Lu Hantian pounced on the resources in the depths of the space without any grace. He looked like a miser. His hands moved so fast that it was dazzling to the point of being dazzled. Zhuowen did not have time to react. 1/10 of the resources had already been plundered by Lu Hantian. Zhuowen did not hold back. He also pounced on the resources and quickly plundered the resources in front of him. Soon, the resources on the ground had been plundered clean by the two of them. However, Zhuowen's Chenkuan bag was running out of space. There were still many resources that could not be stored. Lu Hantian's words carried enormous weight. He said that he would take half, and he really took half. Unfortunately, there were still many resources piled up under Zhuowen's feet. His Chenkuan bag was not small, so he could only pile them up under his feet. Take it. This spirit ring is an even higher grade spatial spirit treasure. The space inside is many times larger than your Chenkuan bag. Lu Hantian smiled. With a flick of his finger, a cyan ring immediately shot into Zhuowen's palm. Zhuowen's expression changed as he looked at the spirit ring in his palm. This spirit ring was extremely famous. It was a spatial soul treasure that could only be refined by 4 Supreme Being stage experts. The space within it was so large that it was almost limitless. Just this spirit ring alone was worth half of the resources in Zhuowen's hands. It could be seen how precious and rare this spirit ring was. After all, this was a spiritual treasure that could only be refined by 4 revered experts. Big brother Hantian, isn't this too precious? Zhuowen said with some hesitation. Take it. Since you call me big brother, then I, as your big brother, have not given you a greeting gift. This spirit ring can be considered a greeting gift. If you treat me as a brother, then don't be polite with me. Lu Hantian said solemnly with a wave of his sleeve. All right then. Seeing Lu Hantian's resolute attitude, Zhuowen could only accept the spirit ring. After dripping a drop of blood, Zhuowen's heart moved. Immediately, all the resources under his feet were placed into the spirit ring space. This spirit ring space was indeed much larger than his Chenkuan bag. In the future, Zhuowen would not have to worry about the space being too small and not being able to take too many things. There are several spaces in the blood demon's lair. This is only one of them. Let's continue to search. Maybe we can find other good things. Chapter 570. How lucky. The blood demon's lair was indeed huge. Furthermore, it was split into many smaller spaces. Although the space barrier was sturdy, Zhuowen had a heavenly venerate powerhouse like Lu Hantian by his side. Thus, the space barrier wasn't a problem. Most of the spaces inside were basically empty. There were even some spaces that contained quite a number of ancient blood clan members. However, Lu Hantian only needed to flick his finger and these blood clan members would basically collapse and dissipate. They couldn't even withstand a single blow. It seems like most of the spaces in the blood demon's lair are abandoned. Lu Hantian said with a frown as the two figures stood in front of one of the spaces. There are still 2 spaces left. Let's take one each. If you encounter any danger, just call out to me. Lu Hantian instructed Zhuowen. His figure flashed and he directly entered the space entrance on the left. The exit to leave the blood demon's lair should be in one of these 2 spaces. Zhuowen stood there quietly. There were 2 vortex entrances in front of him. These 2 were the last 2 spaces in the blood demon's lair. Let's take a look on the right. After saying that, Zhuowen directly entered the vortex entrance on the right. As soon as he stepped in, the space around him changed. Zhuowen only felt his vision blur and the scenery before him became extremely unfamiliar. This space was an underground cliff. Below the cliff, a stream of magma that looked like the Milky Way of the nine heavens was constantly boiling. The blazing magma surged up, releasing a terrifying heat. Above the magma, 3 balls of light were suspended. When Zhuowen's gaze focused on the 3 balls of light, he was completely stunned. This was because within the first 2 balls of light, there were actually 2 balls of flames of different colors. The first ball of flame was completely white with a hint of blue in between. What made Zhuowen even more surprised was that this white flame was actually emitting a cold aura. It was as if what was in front of him wasn't a ball of flame, but a ball of 10,000-year-old mysterious ice. The second ball of flame was like a purple mist. As it burned, balls of purple mist constantly revolved around it. Moreover, a strange fragrance slowly dissipated from the purple mist, causing Zhuowen's eyes to appear intoxicated. 9 nether cold flame and purple chi from the east. The 2 balls of flames above the balls of light were actually earth fires. Moreover, their might was comparable to the blood flames. Kid, your luck is pretty good to actually encounter 2 types of earth fires here. The 9 nether cold flame and purple chi from the east aren't bad. If you use the fire fusion art, you will be able to fuse the 6-colored refined fire, and its might be powerful. In his sea of consciousness, Xiao He also noticed the 2 types of earth fires above the magma and couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. Nodding his head, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with a blazing light. The fire fusion art was a peculiar secret spiritual skill that he had obtained from a tattered cloth. It could fuse 9 types of earth fires into the legendary extremely powerful heavenly fire. It was said that the heavenly fire was a kind of powerful energy that was comparable to the 4 venerables realm. Zhuowen knew that if he could really fuse the heavenly fire, even if his strength hadn't reached the 4 venerables realm, he would still have the strength to fight against the 4 venerables realm experts. However, for an expert who stood at the peak of the 4 venerables realm like Lu Hantian, a mere heavenly fire wouldn't be able to threaten him. However, the 4 venerables realm was divided into 4 sub-realms. For a heavenly venerables like Lu Hantian, the heavenly fire might not be able to do anything to him. However, the lowest level of the Xuanzuan realm would probably be threatened by the heavenly fire. Therefore, Zhuowen was looking forward to the fire fusion art. If he could gather 9 types of earth fires and fuse them into the heavenly fire, then his strength would be considered to be at the peak of the Muqin County. These 2 types of earth fires seem to be ownerless. I should be able to slowly subdue them with the holy symbol of ice fire. With a flicker of his eyes, Zhuowen's mind moved. Suddenly, the holy symbol of fire on the back of his right hand emitted a blazing light. The power of the holy symbol was fully displayed. The 2 types of earth fires above the magma seemed to have felt the powerful aura of the holy symbol of fire. They actually trembled at the same time, as if they were worshipping an emperor. They didn't dare to resist at all. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The 9 serenities cold flame and purple cloud above the magma whimpered as they drilled into the holy symbol of fire. They were like long-lost sons that had suddenly found their family. They actually showed a joyful and excited expression. Even Zhuowen couldn't help but be astonished that the 2 types of earth fires had been so easily subdued. When he had subdued the first type of earth fire, he had exhausted himself. Why were these 2 types of earth fires so docile now? You don't have to be surprised. Back then, your holy symbol of ice fire was incomplete. Its aura was weak, so it was naturally much more difficult to subdue the earth fires. However, you now have 4 types of earth fires in your body, as well as the extremely strong extreme cold ice. These ice and fire energies have imperceptibly strengthened the aura of the holy symbol of ice fire. The holy symbol of ice fire is originally a mysterious object of heaven and earth. It controls the ice and fire energies of heaven and earth. Once its aura is fully released, it is a very normal phenomenon for all flames to worship it. It was rare for Xiao He to give an explanation, which solved the doubts in Zhuowen's heart. After subduing the 2 types of earth fires, Zhuowen's gaze shifted slightly and landed on the 3rd ball of light. He knew that since the first 2 balls of light were mysterious objects like the earth fires, then the object in the 3rd ball of light wouldn't be any worse. In the 3rd ball of light, There was a sparkling and translucent red lotus that looked like it had been carved out of jade. A rippling brilliance flowed on its surface. It was indescribably mystical. This is the lotus bathing fire. It's actually the lotus bathing fire. Zhuowen couldn't help but exclaim in surprise as he stared at the sparkling and translucent red lotus in the ball of light. His face was filled with ecstasy. The lotus bathing fire was a top-quality Tier 5 spirit herb. It was said that it could allow an ultimate Emperor realm cultivator to advance by a small realm in a short period of time, saving a cultivator a lot of time in cultivation. Zhuowen didn't expect to see such a precious spirit herb here. With bloodshot eyes, Zhuowen waved his right hand and a Yuan Li palm directly grabbed the lotus bathing fire in the ball of light. Holding it in his palm, a dense fire spirit chi shone brightly. Zhuowen took a light breath and his entire body instantly felt refreshed as his bones cracked. Zhuowen, I found the exit. It's in this space of mine. Come to me quickly. Suddenly, a sonorous voice passed through the space barrier and into Zhuowen's mind. It was Lu Hantian's voice. The exit is indeed in the space on the left. Muttering to himself, Zhuowen placed the lotus bathing fire in his spirit ring and took a step forward, directly leaving this place and entering the space on the left. In the vast space, there were numerous Blood Clan corpses scattered all around. Lu Hantian stood silently in the center of the corpses, his gaze focused on the bloody vortex in front of him. Within the blood-colored vortex, Zhuowen sensed a familiar aura. It was the aura of the fourth floor of the Essence Chi Tower's Land of Legacy. Zhuowen knew that the blood-colored vortex was the exit. Haha. Sure enough, the heavens reward those who wait. We finally found the exit. Zhuowen, did you find anything in the other space? Lu Hantian turned around and asked excitedly. After staying in the Blood Demon inheritance for nearly 100 years, Lu Hantian no longer wanted to endure the loneliness. Now that he could see the light of day, how could he not be excited? Nodding, Zhuowen briefly explained the situation in the space on the right, including the 9 nether cold flame, purple chi from the east, and lotus bathing fire. Zhuowen could feel that Lu Hantian truly treated him as a brother, so he didn't hide anything from Lu Hantian. 2 types of earth fire and lotus bathing fire? Brat, your luck is really good. Lu Hantian revealed a surprised expression at first, but then he revealed a sincere smile and patted Zhuowen's shoulder. His eyes flashing, Zhuowen suddenly said, Big brother Hantian, now that I've obtained the lotus bathing fire, I want to stay in this space for a while longer and break through to the ultimate Emperor realm in one go. After all, the 9 countries war is about to begin, so I need to increase my strength as soon as possible. Lu Hantian nodded and said, Since you want to stay, your big brother will stay with you. After all, I'm a heavenly venerable realm powerhouse, so I can give you a lot of advice on your cultivation path. Zhuowen smiled, but his heart was filled with warmth. He was very clear how urgently Lu Hantian wanted to leave this place. After all, he had been trapped here for nearly 100 years. That kind of loneliness and solitude was enough to make him yearn for life in the outside world. However, for Zhuowen, Lu Hantian still decided to stay. It could be seen how much Lu Hantian cared about his brother, Zhuowen. Big brother Hantian, many thanks. Zhuowen cupped his hands and said solemnly, All right. There's no need to be so polite between us. Hurry up and refine the lotus bathing fire. Although the lotus bathing fire can raise an ultimate Emperor realm powerhouse's cultivation by a small realm, you're only at the early stage of the ultimate Emperor realm. If you want to reach the ultimate Emperor realm, you'll need at least 3 months. Take your time. After saying that, Lu Hantian found a random corner and sat cross-legged on the ground, silently cultivating. Meanwhile, Zhuowen took out the lotus bathing fire from his Chenkuan bag and began to focus on refining the rich fire spiritual energy within. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Outside the Yuan Chi Tower, countless people were staring at the 6 names on the light screen. They all wanted to know how many of these 6 people would be able to truly obtain the acknowledgement of the inheritance and obtain the inheritance within. On the high platform, Lu Nantian had his hands behind his back. He raised his head and focused his gaze on the top of the Origin Chi Tower. He said with anticipation, It's already been a month. Normally, the results of the ancient inheritance should be out by now. On the high platform, the master of the meteorite, Qin Nai, and the others were also waiting with anticipation. At this moment, they were all rather nervous. The ancient inheritance wasn't something that could be obtained with 100% success rate. If one couldn't pass the trials inside, they would usually be eliminated from the ancient inheritance and obtain nothing. Boom! Under countless expectant gazes, a pillar of light like a blazing sun descended from the sky. A stifling sound of something breaking through the air exploded in the sky. Chapter 571. Anticipation and disappointment. Wasn't he the handsome young man in white, Elviatao, the eldest son of Muqin County? Whoosh! Elviatao took a light step and instantly arrived on the high platform. He cupped his hands towards Lv Nantien and said in a clear voice, "Lord Father, Itao was fortunate enough to complete the mission and successfully obtained the inheritance of the heaven-class Qiangang sect." Good. Good. As expected of my good son, you didn't disappoint me. Lu Nantien held Lv Itao up with both hands and a smile on his face. He was very pleased to have such a son. Moreover, he could feel that Lv Itao's aura had become much stronger. He was probably at the peak of the ultimate five-wheel emperor realm. He knew that all of this was due to the inheritance of the Qiangang sect. Countless people stared at Lv Itao with envy. They all knew that Lv Itao's future would be limitless after obtaining the ancient inheritance. At the very least, he would be able to reach the Quad Venerable Realm. It was only a matter of time before he surpassed Lu Nantien. Not long after Lv Itao appeared, another stream of light flashed across the sky. A stone statue with an equally powerful aura descended from the sky and landed not far from the middle-aged stone statue. It stood there quietly. "Luo Xing is here too." The corners of Lv Itao's mouth revealed a trace of a smile as he looked at the beautiful figure on the stone statue of the young lady in a gauze gown not far away. Whoosh! Luo Xing landed on the platform like a butterfly dancing in a field of flowers. She bowed politely to the authoritative figures and walked straight towards the master of the meteorite. At this moment, the master of the meteorite's face was filled with excitement. She knew that Luo Xing had also obtained the Heaven Stage Jade Lake Immortal Garden. This inheritance was not inferior to Lv Itao's Qiangang sect. With the appearance of Lv Itao and Luo Xing, the remaining three stone statues flew across the sky and landed in the center of the square. The remaining three had all successfully obtained their respective inheritances. None of them had failed. Such a perfect result naturally made Lv Nantien grin from ear to ear. In previous years, when the geniuses in the Yuan-Chi Tower battle received the ancient inheritance, there would be a few who failed and were eliminated. However, this time, no one was eliminated. From this, it could be seen that the potential of this batch of geniuses was indeed enormous. It is Muqin County's fortune to be able to produce 5 such geniuses. I'm afraid that Muqin County might be able to obtain a good ranking in the upcoming 9 Counties War. Lv Nantien couldn't help but think happily when he saw the 3 inheritances descending at the same time. After all, Qing Lian, and Ling Wushuang, Qin Batian, and Qing Studio. The 3 ofs, Studio, and Ling Wushuang, and Nantien Li Yinxiang. Qing Lian's, in particular, Nantien Li Yin, was only at the mid-stage of the Ultimate Emperor stage. Her strength was at the bottom of the group. But now, Qing Lian's aura was so strong that even Ling Wushuang and Qin Batian, who were beside her, felt extremely wary. Moreover, with every step Qing Lian took, the aura within her body would stir up the surrounding wind, forming an unconscious sword qi. She looked like a peerless sword that had just been unsheathed. It seems that the Wind Sword sect is indeed very suitable for Qing Lian. This girl must have obtained many benefits from the Wind Sword sect's inheritance. Feeling the fierce aura of Qing Lian in front of her, the master of Falling Star Garden grinned from ear to ear. Among the 5 inheritances, her Jade Lady Astral Court had occupied 2 places. Moreover, both Luo Xing and Qing Lian had succeeded in obtaining the inheritances. Such a result undoubtedly brought her great surprise. After Qing Lian, Ling Wushuang, and Qin Batian exchanged greetings with their respective leaders, they each stood on one side of the high platform and waited silently. They were all waiting for the last figure to descend. At this moment, whether it was the four squares or the central high platform, everyone involuntarily raised their heads and focused their gazes on the huge light screen. At this moment, Lv Tao, Luo Xing, and the other four names on the light screen had all dimmed, leaving only a line of blood-red words that appeared alone on the light screen. Zhuowen, the Blood Devil's inheritance, an ancient sacred being. Senior sister. Do you think Zhuowen can pass the Blood Devil's inheritance? Qing Lian stood beside Luo Xing, her beautiful eyes fixed on the line of blood-red words on the light screen. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Hearing this, Luo Xing's delicate body trembled. Her beautiful eyes were filled with complex emotions as she stared at the light screen. She sighed softly and said, "The Blood Devil's inheritance is known as the most terrifying and dangerous inheritance in the land of inheritance. Even the number one genius of Muqin County, Lu Hantian, fell because of this inheritance. I'm afraid that it will be very difficult for Zhuowen to pass." At this point, Luo Xing suddenly could not continue speaking. She did not know why, but she kept feeling a little stuffy in her chest. This was especially so when she recalled the stubborn figure that had calmly met her gaze and rejected her invitation. The stuffy feeling in her chest became even more intense. Qing Lian's delicate body trembled slightly. Her gaze was firm as she said, "Senior sister, you don't understand Zhuowen. I believe that he will definitely pass the Blood Devil's inheritance and appear in front of us in a powerful manner. I believe." Luo Xing became silent when she heard Qing Lian's hopeful words. She did not refute, nor did she want to refute. Actually, in her heart, she also hoped that Qing Lian was right. However, reality was cruel at times. With an indifferent expression, Lv Tao's white clothes fluttered in the wind. His hands were behind his back as he quietly stared at the light screen. His good-looking eyebrows were slightly furrowed. He was extremely expectant in his heart. Would Zhuowen be able to bring the stone statue of the Blood Devil's inheritance to this place? Ling Wushuang and Qin Batian were also silently paying attention. Along the way, the two of them had already wholeheartedly accepted Zhuowen. Moreover, Zhuowen's strength had already been deeply imprinted in their hearts. Everyone raised their heads in anticipation and longing. They really wanted to see if Zhuowen would be able to walk out of the Yuan Qi Tower alive. They wanted to see if this unknown dark horse would be able to once again break the record of the Yuan Qi Tower battle and obtain the Blood Devil's inheritance. Time passed second by second, but there was not the slightest movement from the Yuan Qi Tower. Gradually, many people in the plaza revealed looks of disappointment. Some people even began to whisper to each other. The Blood Devil's inheritance is after all the most terrifying inheritance in the inheritance ground. I'm afraid that Zhuowen has already fallen in the inheritance ground. What you said makes sense. Back then, Lu Hantian also fell because of the Blood Devil's inheritance. This Zhuowen's strength is much weaker than Lu Hantian's, so the chances of him falling is very high. Gradually, many voices of doubt rose in the surroundings. Everyone had already begun to suspect that Zhuowen had already fallen in the inheritance ground. On the high platform, the corner of Xu Chang's mouth revealed a trace of ridicule as he said indifferently, "Brother Lu, you should be very clear about the danger of the Blood Devil's inheritance. Back then, even Senior Han Tian had fallen because of it. This Zhuowen's strength is even weaker than Senior Han Tian's, so his fall is inevitable. I think we don't need to wait any longer. Let's just announce the result." As soon as Xu Chang's words came out, a few people on the high platform frowned. However, they all knew that Xu Chang and Zhuowen had quite a bit of enmity, so they didn't say much. Instead, they looked at Lu Nantian. They knew that the decision was up to Lu Nantian. It hasn't been long. Just because Zhuowen hasn't come out doesn't mean that he has fallen. Isn't Marquis Xu being too arbitrary? Suddenly, Jiu Tian, who had been silent, spoke up. At this moment, Jiu Tian's mood was rather irritable. As the city lord of Vine Armor City, His mood naturally wasn't good when Zhuowen still hadn't appeared. Seeing that Xu Chang had started to squeeze Zhuowen, he naturally wasn't happy. Who do you think you are? You're just the city lord of a small, low-level city. How dare you make irresponsible remarks in front of this marquis? You really don't know the difference between life and death. Xu Chang's gaze was gloomy and cold. He clapped his right hand and a powerful aura suddenly erupted. He actually directly slammed his palm towards Jiyu Yutian's head. This palm was extremely terrifying. It was obvious that he wanted to kill Jiyu Yutian directly. At this moment, Jiyu Yutian's face was filled with both shock and anger. He also didn't expect that Xu Chang would directly kill him with just a few words. He couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. LV Nantian frowned slightly. With a flick of his finger, a powerful force blasted onto Xu Chang's arm, directly neutralizing Xu Chang's attack. Brother Xu. I know what you mean. Although the Blood Devil inheritance is terrifying, that Zhuowen isn't simple. Perhaps he might come out alive. Let's wait for 3 more days. If Zhuowen doesn't come out in 3 days, I will announce the end of this year's Vitality Pagoda battle, Lu Nantian said loudly. Xu Chang rubbed his slightly numb arm and glanced at Lu Nantian with some fear. Soon after, he glared fiercely at Jiyu Yutian and said, "You better watch your dogmouth in the future. Don't think that a lowly guy like you can compare to us just because your small rattan armor city produced that Zhuowen. Moreover, it's still unknown whether that Zhuowen will be able to walk out of the Vitality Pagoda." At this point, Xu Chang no longer paid any attention to Jiyu Yutian, who had an ugly expression, and stood silently on the platform. Jiyu Yutian's eyes were filled with anger, but he didn't dare to vent it. After all, Xu Chang was the noble Marquis Baichuan and a powerful ultimate emperor. Whether it was status or strength, Xu Chang was far above him. Offending such a person was no different from striking a rock with an egg. The others on the platform didn't say anything and just watched silently. They really didn't think much of Jiyu Yutian. If that Zhuowen could bring out an inheritance, they could speak politely to Jiyu Yutian. However, the problem now was that Zhuowen had chosen the Blood Devil inheritance. If he wasn't careful, his life would be in danger. The chances of him dying were too high. And if Zhuowen really died, then Jiyu Yutian was worthless to them. Chapter 572. Revenge. What a pity. The genius that defeated Xu Tianliang and Zhu Kai in succession has fallen just like that. If Zhuowen wasn't so arrogant, he would have already obtained an inheritance. However, he chose the Blood Devil inheritance. This is simply courting death. It's normal for him to fall. For the past 3 days, Zhuowen, whom everyone had been anticipating, had not appeared. Everyone knew that Zhuowen had most likely fallen in the Blood Devil inheritance. Clamor, pity, and even mockery rose and fell one after another, slowly resounding in the surroundings. On the high platform, Jiyu Yutian clenched his fists. Due to using too much strength, his knuckles were exposed and his face was as pale as snow. He knew that something bad would happen when Zhuowen chose the Blood Devil inheritance. But all along, Zhuowen's domineering performance had caused Jiyu Yutian to have blind confidence in Zhuowen. Therefore, he had always hoped that Zhuowen would be able to obtain the Blood Devil's inheritance and appear outside the Yuanqi Tower with all the glory. But in these 3 days, this trace of hope had already been worn away. He had already realized that perhaps Zhuowen had really fallen. On the high platform, Xu Chang revealed a smile and said to Lu Nantian, "Brother Lu, 3 days have passed. 3 days have already passed. It's unlikely that Zhuowen will come out alive. Let's announce the results. Zhuowen, I've already fought for 3 days for you. This can be considered as being extremely benevolent. Since you still haven't come out, I'm afraid that you've really fallen in there." Lu Nantian took a final glance at the Origin Tower and sighed. He said in a clear voice, "The long Origin Tower battle has finally come to an end. Everyone already knows that the 5 ancient inheritances are Luo Tao, Luo Xing, Qing Lian, Qin Batian, and Ling Wushuang. These 5 people have the opportunity to directly participate in the Great War of the 9 counties. As you all know, there are only 100 spots for the Great War of the 9 counties. Lu Nantian's voice was like thunder. It was loud and clear and shook the sky. It had the demeanor and aura of a supreme master, causing everyone in the surroundings to feel deep veneration. This was the strength of the #1 master in Muqin County. Whoosh, whoosh. Ear-piercing sounds could be heard from all around the square as nearly 100 young martial artists arrived at the foot of the high platform. Their eyes were blazing as they looked up at Lu Nantian. "I am the Lord of Muqin County, Lu Nantian, the Marquis of Muqin. All of you are the most talented elites of Muqin County. If you want to participate in the War of the 9 Counties, then you can temporarily come under my House of Marquis Qin and represent Muqin County in the War of the 9 Counties. Are you willing?" Lu Nantian slowly swept his gaze over the people below and spoke in a clear voice. "I'm willing. I'm willing." Loud voices resounded in the sky above the square. Everyone's eyes were blazing as they stared at Lu Nantian. The Great Battle of the 9 Countries was the most prestigious event in the Qing Xian Empire. Everyone knew that every time the Great Battle of the 9 Countries was held, the ranking of the Qing Xian Empire would be reshuffled. The Qing Emperor ranking was famous in Qing Xian Empire. It represented the countless geniuses of the younger generation. As long as one could enter the top 100 of the Qing Emperor ranking, one would represent the top combat strength of all the geniuses in Qing Xian Empire and enjoy endless fame and benefits. It was said that in the War of the 9 Counties, if one could enter the top 3 of the Qing Emperor ranking, he would be personally conferred the title of Marquis by the Qing Emperor. He would be directly promoted to an official position and protect his family. The Marquis conferred by the Qing Emperor was not like the Marquis of Baichuan, Xuchang, or the Marquis of Yongsheng, Qin Nai, but the Marquis of the Imperial Capital. The Marquis of the Imperial Capital was much higher than the Marquis of the Imperial Capital in terms of status and power. Even Lu Nantian, the Lord of the 9 Counties, had a lower status than the Marquis of the Imperial Capital. In addition, if one could make it into the top 10 of the Azure Emperor leaderboard in the Battle of the 9 Counties, they could also receive the Azure Emperor's personal blessing to increase their cultivation. This kind of Emperor power level blessing did not have any side effects. One blessing was equivalent to 10 years of cultivation. It was obvious how tempting this blessing was. Other than the top 10 geniuses, those who could enter the Qing Emperor ranking would also be rewarded by the imperial family. The rewards were all extremely precious and rare items. It was because of these benefits that everyone in Qing Xian Empire attached great importance to the War of the 9 Counties, to the point of fanaticism. Lu Nantian nodded his head in satisfaction as he looked at the loud cheers of the geniuses below. He continued, "Joining my Muqin County is only temporary. After the War of the 9 Counties is over, you can still decide whether to stay or leave. Before the War of the 9 Counties, the House of Marquis Qin will do its best to nurture you and help you reach the peak of your strength. Attention! The War of the 9 Counties is less than half a year away. I hope you can use this time to cultivate. I am looking forward to your performance in the War of the 9 Counties." After finishing his words, Lu Nantian waved his sleeve and left the Vitality Tower with the geniuses. He had to return to the House of Marquis Qin to arrange for these geniuses. If he wanted to achieve a good result in the War of the 9 Counties, he had to nurture these geniuses well. He had to achieve a good result in the War of the 9 Counties. The departure of the geniuses did not cause any dissatisfaction from the leaders of the factions that they belonged to. They all knew that their geniuses joining the House of Marquis Qin was only temporary. After the War of the 9 Counties, these geniuses would return to their factions. Even if these geniuses decided to join the House of Marquis Qin, it would only be beneficial to them. Furthermore, the House of Marquis Qin would take care of their factions, which would be beneficial to their development. LV Itao nodded his head at Luo Xing and the others. He stomped his foot and left with Lu Nantian. 3 days had passed. In his opinion, Zhuowen's fate was no different from that of Lu Hantian. Naturally, he would not waste his time here. After Lu Nantian and the others left, Xu Chang and Qin Nai also left the Vitality Tower with their own people. Looking at the motionless Luo Xing and Qing Lian on the high platform, the master of the meteorite sighed and said, "Let's go too." Qing Lian, Luo Xing, I'm afraid that Zhuoan won't be able to come out. At this time, Qing Lian's gaze was fixed on the light screen. A bitter smile appeared on the corners of her mouth as she said, Master, I want to stay here for a while. Let me have some peace and quiet. Luo Xing, who was beside Qing Lian, said to the master of the meteorite, Master, I'll stay here with junior martial sister. I'll persuade her. Hearing this, the master of the meteorite could only nod her head helplessly and pat Qing Lian's fragrant shoulder. She knew that Qing Lian's inheritance was given to her by Zhuoan. She probably had a favorable impression of Zhuoan. After the master of the meteorite garden left, the other people in the surrounding 4 large plazas also dispersed. They clearly knew that Zhuoan had definitely died and there was no longer any meaning for them to continue staying in this place. In just an instant, the originally bustling square had become much more deserted. Only Luo Xing and Qing Lian were left on the high platform, silently watching the origin chi tower that was no longer moving. Jiu Tian glanced at Luo Xing and Qing Lian, shook his head, and jumped off the high platform. He prepared to leave the prefecture capital with Jiu Xin and Hu Wuying. He didn't expect the final result to be like this. He'd originally thought that Ratanama City would be able to shake up the entire Muqin County by relying on Zhuoan's power and influence. It might even be able to rise from a low-level city to a super city because of this. However, all of this had died with Zhuoan's death. Even the very enthusiastic Lu Nantian didn't even look at him before he left. Jiu Tian knew very well that everyone's enthusiasm had been because of Zhuoan. Now that Zhuoan's whereabouts were unknown, naturally no one would be nice to him. Where do you 3 from Ratanama City want to go? An untimely voice slowly rang out just as Jiu Tian and the others were about to leave. After that, Jiu Tian and the others saw that more than 10 people had gathered in front of them at some unknown time. Moreover, their auras surged. They were all half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators. Their leader's aura was as powerful as the ocean. He was actually a first-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. You're from the house of Marquis Baichuan? What do you want? Jiu Xin immediately recognized that these people were from the house of Marquis Baichuan. Her expression changed slightly as she questioned them. What do we want? Heh. Your Ratanama City has really raised a good genius. That Zhuoan's strength is indeed heaven-defying. Unfortunately, that boundlessly arrogant brat not only killed our second prince in the Yuan Chi Tower, but also severely injured our first prince. Now that bastard Zhuoan's arrogance has caused him to fall in the inheritance of the blood demon, it's naturally time for the 3 of you to settle this debt. Heh. The leader of the group was a middle-aged man with a sinister expression. At this moment, a trace of a cruel smile appeared on his lips as he walked step by step towards Jiu Tian and the others. What? Jiu Tian and the others' expressions changed drastically when they heard this. They hadn't expected that Zhuoan would actually kill the second prince of the house of Marquis Baichuan. This was equivalent to sowing a blood feud. Their hearts sank. So you'd better obediently accept your death. The middle-aged man chuckled. He clapped his right hand in the air. Immediately, an enormous palm of several hundred feet slammed down towards the 3 of them. Its power was so strong that even the surrounding earth trembled. This person was planning to kill them. Let's do it. The 3 of us will attack together. Jiu Xin was the strongest of the 3. Thanks to Zhuoan's help, she and Hu Wuying had both reached the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm. Although this person was only a first-wheel Ultimate Emperor, the 3 of them might be able to defeat him if they worked together. Boom boom boom. The 3 of them worked together and unleashed their strongest moves at the same time. Immediately, a 5-colored brilliance condensed and blasted towards the enormous palm in the sky. However, what shocked Jiu Xin and the others was that their attacks couldn't even shake the palm at all. Instead, they shattered into pieces like tofu pudding. You're just 3 ants. You'd better obediently accept your death. Chapter 573. Enforcement Elder. It's over. Jiu Xin and the other 2 looked at the giant palm in the sky with despair. They knew that an ultimate Emperor stage cultivator was too powerful and was not someone they could fight against. Boom! Just as the palm from above was about to descend, an even more powerful force burst forth and blasted on the palm, directly blasting the huge palm into smithereens. Who is it? How dare you ruin our House of Baichuan's business? The sinister-looking man's face darkened when his palm was destroyed. He turned his head and stared coldly to the side. He saw a group of more than 10 people slowly walking over from the side. The person walking at the front was a middle-aged man with sharp eyes like an eagle. Beside the middle-aged man was a young man with an elegant temperament. He wore a white robe and held a folding fan in his hand. Senior Cho. Looking at the group of people slowly walking over, Jiu Tian and the other two revealed expressions of relief. At the same time, their hearts were filled with gratitude. They were very clear that Cho and the rest of the people from Broken Rock City were only on good terms with Zhuo Wen and had nothing to do with them. Originally, they thought that after Zhuo Wen's whereabouts were unknown, the people from Broken Rock City would act like the others and not take the three of them seriously. But now, it seemed that they were completely wrong. The strongest person in Broken Rock City, Cho. The shadowy man looked at Cho's group, and his eyes were filled with fear. Cho was quite famous in Muqin County, and he was an ultimate Emperor realm four-wheeled cultivator. Furthermore, he was extremely daring and dared to do anything. Many people were unwilling to offend a madman like him. Cho, do you plan to go against our House of Baichuan? Although Broken Rock City is a super city, it's nothing compared to our House of Baichuan. The sinister-looking man stared at Cho and threatened coldly. Get lost. Or die. When Cho arrived beside Jiu Tian and the other two, his words stunned the sinister-looking man and the others. What did you say? How dare you insult me and look down on our House of Baichuan? Cho, I think you must be tired of living. Do you believe that our 100 Rivers Marquis residents will directly destroy your Broken Rock City and kill? The gloomy man hadn't finished speaking when Cho had already made a move. Cho stomped his foot and instantly arrived before the gloomy man. His right hand formed into a claw and suddenly grabbed onto the man's neck, and then he exerted force and directly tossed the man away like a little chick. Poochie. The gloomy man spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying dozens of meters away. He crashed heavily onto the ground, his entire body twitching in pain. The dozen or so people that the shady man brought along stared blankly at the shady man, who was twitching like a dead dog, dozens of meters away. All of them lowered their heads and did not dare to make a sound. This Cho was too ruthless. He clearly knew that they were from the Baichuan Marquis mansion, yet he still dared to act so recklessly. They did not dare to offend such a lunatic. Cho, you're finished, and so is your Broken Rock City. Those who offend our Baichuan Marquis manor will not have a good ending. The shadowy man rolled a few times on the ground and scolded Cho with a ferocious expression. Hee. You're the one who's looking for death. Then you'd better die. Cho sneered. He stomped his foot, and the aura of a peak ultimate Emperor realm cultivator surged out. He pressed his right hand into the air, and immediately, a gigantic palm several hundred meters long condensed in the air. It fell directly towards the shadowy man below. The aura of a peak ultimate Emperor realm cultivator erupted without restraint. The shadowy man was finally afraid, especially when he saw the palm coming closer and closer. He knew that Cho really wanted to kill him, and he could not help but feel regret. If he had known that Cho was so crazy, he would not have provoked him. How dare you kill someone from the Baichuan Marquis manor? You really don't know what's good for you. A furious roar came from afar. A ring-shaped sound wave blasted against the gigantic palm in the air, completely shattering Cho's full-powered attack. Even Cho could not help but take a few steps back, his expression uncertain. It's the enforcement elder. The enforcement elder of the manor has also come. Haha, you're dead meat. Cho, and your group, you're all dead meat. The enforcement elder is a peak ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. Once he comes, all of you will die. The shadowy man was overjoyed when his palm broke. He pointed his right hand at Cho's group, and his attitude became fearless and extremely arrogant. Whoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air rang out. An old man with a head full of silver hair and a ruddy complexion, dressed in a wide black robe, stepped through the air and arrived beside the shadowy man in an instant. Enforcement Elder, you have to make a decision for me. These bastards openly looked down on the Baichuan Marquis manor and even wanted to kill a lowly person. These people deserve to die. Also, these people are Zhuowen's accomplices. We can't let them go. The shadowy man eagerly came to the old man's side and pointed at Qiu Chou's group to complain. He even added fuel to the fire. The enforcement elder nodded, then looked directly at Qiu Chou and said, "You should be Qiu Chou from Broken Rock City, right? It's not easy for you to cultivate, so it's best that you don't do anything stupid. Hand over Jiu Tian, Jiu Xin, and Hu Wuying, and I'll let you go." The shadowy man was stunned when he heard this. However, he didn't dare to contradict the enforcement elder, so he could only follow behind the old man. Jiu Tian and the other two immediately looked at Qiu Chou. They were extremely nervous. Qiu Chou had already done his duty by saving them. It was unlikely that he would completely offend the Baichuan Marquis manor for them. The three of them were actually prepared for the consequences of being captured. However, Qiu Chou shook his head and said, "The three of them are Zhuowen's friends. I, Qiu Chou, can't just ignore them. Don't even think about taking them away today." Hearing Qiu Chou's words, Ouyang Hanxian and Ouyang Yuntu smiled bitterly and shook their heads. In their opinion, it wasn't worth it to go to such lengths for Jiu Tian and the other two. If Zhuowen hadn't fallen, it wouldn't be a big deal to protect Jiu Tian and the other two for him. However, Zhuowen's whereabouts were unknown. Jiu Tian and the other two weren't worth Qiu Chou's sacrifice. However, Ouyang Yuntu and Ouyang Hanxian didn't say much. They just stood silently behind Qiu Chou. They knew Qiu Chou's character very well. He was a person who valued friendship and righteousness. Even if Zhuowen had fallen, Qiu Chou would still take care of those related to Zhuowen for the sake of friendship. Good. 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 The black-robed old man said the word good 3 times in a row. However, his voice became even colder, like ice in winter, causing everyone's hearts to tighten. You're a man who values friendship and righteousness. However, people like you usually die the quickest, so you should be buried with these 3. As he spoke, the black-robed old man stomped his foot. His aura erupted like a volcano. The surrounding air flowed upwards like an inverted waterfall, stirring up thousands of strong waves. It made him look awe-inspiring and insufferably arrogant. A 5-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator, Qiu Chou's expression was extremely solemn. The old man in front of him was a genuine 5-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator. With Qiu Chou's strength, it would be difficult for him to deal with this person. Count us in. At this moment, Ouyang Hanxian and Ouyang Yuntu both came to Qiu Chou's side and said in unison, "You too." Qiu Chou looked at the Ouyang father and son beside him with a trace of guilt and relief in his eyes. He knew that his maverick actions would bring no small amount of trouble to Broken Rock City, but these two still stood by his side. This moved him quite a bit. What's the use of numbers? They're still just ants to me. 5-wheel Vajra Claw, die for this old man. The black-robed old man snorted coldly and clawed at the air. Immediately, a golden light that was like a scorching sun gradually appeared behind him and turned into a 5-fingered golden claw that shook the heavens and the earth. Qiu Chou, Ouyang Hanxian, and Ouyang Yuntu were awe-inspiring and unafraid. They all used their best armor skills. In an instant, 3 powerful auras surged out and turned into 3 pillars of light that shot into the sky in an attempt to block the black-robed old man's 5-wheel Vajra Claw. Hee. You're just a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Break for me. The black-robed old man sneered. He suddenly pressed down with his claw and his aura surged. The 5-fingered golden claw smashed the 3 pillars of light like a hot knife through butter. Fart. Qiu Chou, Ouyang Hanxian, and Ouyang Hanchuan's attacks were broken. They all spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. Their faces were as pale as snow and their eyes were filled with fear. They never thought that a 5-wheel ultimate Emperor realm cultivator would be so strong. The three of them had joined forces, but they were defeated in a single move. This old man has said that ants will always be ants. Don't blame this old man when you die and go to hell. This old man has already given you a chance. Unfortunately, you didn't cherish it. The black-robed old man shook his head. Under his control, the 5-fingered golden claw in the air enveloped Cho and the other two. This move was enough to kill them. Boom! A beam of starlight like the Milky Way swept over from the distant horizon. It was like the sharpest blade and directly cut the powerful 5-fingered golden claw into pieces. At the same time, the starlight followed the 5-fingered golden claw's afterimage and swept toward the black-robed old man below. The black-robed old man was in an extremely sorry state. The black-robed old man's pupils shrank. He waved his sleeve and a powerful origin energy swept out, forming a thick golden barrier in front of him. Bang! 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 The starlight was like an electric saw that cut at high speed. It continuously bombarded the golden barrier, causing it to shake violently and almost collapse. Only then did it completely block the power of the starlight. The Star Codex of the Jade Lady Astral Court? After blocking the power of the starlight, the black-robed old man's pupils shrank to the extreme. A trace of shock appeared in his eyes as he recognized the origin of the starlight. Elder Shu, for the sake of me, Luo Xing, let them go. I believe that I, Luo Xing, still have the right to do so. A clear voice that was like the cry of a lark slowly reverberated in this world. Everyone's gazes converged and immediately saw the pharaoh-like Luo Xing on the high platform not far away. She slowly stood up, and her clear and cold eyes focused on the black-robed old man. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.